Okay, today is Tuesday, February 16th. Call this City Council meeting to order. We'll call closed session to order at 5:05. Roll call.
Mayor Lara?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Here.
Councilmember Condon?
Here.
Councilmember Knight?
Here.
And Councilmember Orozco?
Here.
Okay. No actions on excused absences at this time. Any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
No adjustments. Any conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go into closed session. Good evening, and we'll call the regular session of the City Council meeting on Tuesday, February 16th into order at 6:05.
Roll call. Mayor Lara?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Here.
Councilmember Condon?
Here.
Councilmember Knight?
Here.
And Councilmember Orozco?
Here. Okay, can we get a report out from the attorney?
Yes, the council met in closed session on item A, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The city designated representative, interim city manager Elizabeth Gibbs Bertiaga or her designee, and Carrie Mendoza also participated in that closed session as one of the designees as a city negotiator, and then also the city attorney's office. And there was a reportable action taken on that item, item A, and that was that there was a motion by Councilmember Orozco and a second by Vice Mayor White as follows: to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Beaumont and SEIU Local 721 for the general unit, excluding the Public Safety Support Services unit, for the period of January 1, 2016 through December 31, 2018, conditioned upon the SEIU dismissing a pending unfair labor practice charge against the city. The votes were as follows: Mayor Lara, yes; Vice Mayor White, yes; Councilmember Orozco, yes; Councilmember Condon, yes; and Councilmember Knight, yes. That is the only reportable action taken on item A. Item B, personnel matters, evaluation of interim city manager pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B. There was no reportable action taken on that item. That item has been continued for additional discussion at the end of the open session period, and the public is entitled to remain until the council reports out after that continued closed session. Item C, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. City designated representatives Mayor Mike Lara and Mayor Pro Tem Lloyd White. The unrepresented employees, the interim city manager. That there was no discussion on that item, and that's been continued to the end of the open session. Item D, conference with legal counsel, consideration of initiating potential litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. 2 potential cases. There was no discussion on that, and that has been moved till after the open session. Item E, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 or 3 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, 3 potential cases. There was no discussion on that item other than the fact that item is being continued to Monday, February 22nd at 5 p.m. And that's the report out from closed session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pinckney. We have an excused absence for City Clerk, Mr. Martinez. Can I get a motion on that?
I move to excuse his absence.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Knight, second by
Mr.
Orozco. Roll call. Mayor Lara?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Councilmember Condon?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Councilmember Orozco?
Aye.
Motion to excuse the absent by a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Councilmember Khan, can you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an invocation tonight by Ken Grimes.
Heavenly Father, as we come before your throne this evening, we thank you for your grace and mercy upon us. We thank you for those who are working in the city and giving of their time and energy to make this a better place for all of the residents to live. And we pray that as the public is here, that they will bring to the attention of the council those things that are important to be discussed, and that it will be done all with a civil tone and with graciousness. Father, thank you for your love, your mercy, your grace upon us this day. And we just ask that you continue to help this city to grow and to prosper and to be a place to live that all of us would love to be. And we ask this in the name of thy precious Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Ms. Gibbs, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No, Mayor.
Do we have any conflict interest disclosures?
Yes. I will need to recuse myself for item 8I.
Thank you very much. Announcements and recognitions.
Mayor, we have two presentations tonight, the first of which is by Argent. Cheryl Thompson is giving the presentation. You're up.
Good evening, Mayor Laura, council members. I am excited to share this with you tonight. This has kind of been a long time coming, so I want to give you some history on it. Those of you that have had much time to meet with me, two things you're going to find out about me. Sometimes I talk too much, so I'm going to try not to do that. The other thing is I love my project. I absolutely love my project. I love the people there, and I love the project. So when we're able to move forward on this, it makes me really excited because we've done something really unique and kind of interesting to look out for the best interest of the community members and the city. Can I borrow the pointer? I want to give you a little bit of history. What I want to talk about is Nicholas Park. And Nicholas Park is a park that was previously approved back in about 2006, and it was started. That's when the market fell out and everything was stopped. The project went into bankruptcy, has come out of bankruptcy. So about, when we came back, we realized that the plans that have been approved didn't meet the water conservation that's required now by the state of California. So even though the park was approved, we knew that the water situation was not going to work. So we went back and we redid all of the irrigation so that we would meet the water requirements for the state of California. The park was then approved again in 2014. We sat with all of the city staff and went through the irrigation, got that reapproved. We started the park. So in early of 2015, we started the park again. We trenched, we laid irrigation pipe, we laid some burrito drains that need to go in some of the areas, and they worked out there a couple of weeks. And then we got a call from the city, and the city said, stop. Stop the park, pull the irrigation out, fill all the trenches in, and walk away. That made me sad because I really do want this park for our homeowners and for the community. When we started questioning as to why that was done, the biggest reason is the fact that the water shortage, this park had enough turf that in order to establish the grass, you wouldn't be able to. You would be exceeding the water usage. And then once it was constructed, then the maintenance cost on the way that the park was designed was absolutely astronomical. So we knew that we needed to make another decision. We kind of sat on it for a little bit, and I had the opportunity to take a great rhino tour out with Elizabeth. And Elizabeth's question was, why don't we have the park built? So then I kind of went over with Elizabeth, these are the circumstances behind it. So she said, let's think out of the box. So we started cooperating together. We have the city manager, the acting city manager, Parks and Rec. We had the city planning department. We had our landscape architect. We had our engineer. We had our contractor. We brought everybody in, and we sat around tables and we said, what can we do to provide what we need to for this community? So I am going to share with you kind of what we've come up with. So I'm excited about it. Anybody that's been in my trailer, I've made them sit and look at this because I'm so excited about it. All right, where this park is located, I want you to know where the park is located on the corner of Palmer and Oak Valley. It is 22.8 acres, so it is a big park. And you can see in the blue there, I don't know why I missed the lines, but anyway, you can see where it's at there. There is currently a sewer lift station that is owned by the city now that sits there. But if we go to the next one. This is the way that the park was designed. The park was designed with 3 small turf areas up in here that had some benches and some picnic tables and barbecues and those kinds of things. Well, the baseball field here, which was turf, and 2 big soccer fields. So you can see where the amount of turf, and when I talked to Parks and Rec, they were just having real anxiety over the ability to be able to afford the maintenance on this and the water. So, next one. Here's the first thing we did. We started looking at how can we make this park work. It's already graded. So we need to kind of stay within what's graded, but make the adjustments to make it work. So the first thing we did is we had the tot lot down in here. We decided to move the tot lot up here where it's more on Palmer and away from Oak Valley because it probably is a better situation for the kids. And then, so that left us with a little spot down here. So we decided that we would get creative down here. And I'm a grandma, just so you know. I went to my grandkids and I asked my grandkids, if you went to a park, what would you want to see? If they told me a ball field, that's out. But what would you want to play on? So we've come up with something unique. So let's go to the next one. This is our tot lot equipment that's going in. So the next one. This is going to be a game time area. Some things that the kids really love is they love handball. They like Foursquare. So what we're doing is we're going to put in a 2-sided handball court. We're going to put in a pickleball court. We're hearing pickleball crazy right now. And I happened to be down at Venice Beach this last weekend, and I found out that it's also called paddle tennis. So it would work for paddle tennis, and it would work for pickleball. So we're going to have a pickleball court, we're going to have a double-sided handball, and we're going to put 2 Foursquares. That would be for my 7-year-old. And I went to the junior high school, and they all love these games. Then we have hopscotch. So we have a game area. We're still going to leave the 2 half-court basketball courts that were already there. We're going to leave them right where they were because it still works. Okay, so go to the next one. Okay, the next thing we did. Down in here, there was a bathroom. And because the sewer lift station sits up here, the bathroom down here would have had to have been on a septic tank or on a holding tank. That's an additional cost for pumping and for maintenance. So we made the decision to move the bathroom up here and that way it can be hooked directly into sewer. So we have the bathroom up here. We'll put a few more parking spaces right along here and then screen that sewer lift station right there. So, and that way it puts it a little bit closer to the tot lot, so it seems to work a little bit better. So that was our next thing we looked at. So let's go to the next one. Oh, there you go. That's kind of what the bathroom is going to look like. So it kind of gives you an idea of what the bathroom is going to be. Okay, next one. All right, the next thing we looked at, again, this was an open lawn area. It had some walkways around. In fact, there are some walkways out there. We'll probably have to rip those out and put new ones in because they've been there so long. But we're going to use the same kind of a layout here. So we're going to put a walkway around here. We're going to, instead of an open lawn, we're going to do California-friendly plants. We're going to put in a couple trees and some benches in there. But on the outside of it, we're going to put a parkour. So go to the next slide and I'll show you what we're going to put. Each of those little circles that you see right there. Will this go? Oh, I did it. I figured out how to do it on here.
Very good.
I got it handled. Got it handled. Okay. I work out regularly. So when I started looking at stations, we're going to put 6 exercise stations around there. So we carefully looked at this so that someone could go to that area and get a full body workout while somebody else walks around if that's what they want to do. But, you know, we wanted to kind of cover the whole gamut because occasionally I'll go to these parkours and I'll find that they'll kind of be the same thing over and over. So we tried to be creative and put something that will give a full body workout all the way around that. Okay, so, all right, now the next thing, right down here we had that big baseball diamond. So we are going to do a dog park. And what we want to do is little dogs and bigger dogs. And we're going to call this Nicholas Paw Park. So this park has always been called Nicholas Park after Jack Nicklaus. So, but we want to call it Nicholas Paw Park. And we're going to put shade structures in here with some tables and chairs underneath. We're going to put some trees in here with some benches under it. And make sure we put a sign, and we're going to have 2 entrances, a double entrance, one for the little ones, one for the big ones. All right? And this is similar to what the sign that we want to put in, because I think that looks really cool. I saw a park like that, so I thought that was really nice. And see the little paws here? We want to put big paws going into the big park and little paws going into the little park. But give it a look character. This is similar to the shade structures that we want to put in the dog park area. We also will put some shade structures throughout the park, and we're going to work with city staff to make sure that we have them that would be most effective for where they want them. All right? We're going to fence it in, okay? We're going to put the doggy disposals, and we're going to put a dog water fountain, so we'll take good care of the puppies. All right, the next thing, we have this big soccer area. So our first thought was, well, let's just do part of the park and just leave that alone. I hate to have that left alone. So again, we got a little creative, and what we're going to do in there is we're going to create a natural frisbee golf course. I had the opportunity to meet with a young man who happens to be an international champion. I didn't know he was until I watched him throw a disc. And when I watched him throw a disc, it was pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive. So they are designing it. They are a top-notch Frisbee golf design company. They will design it. They will provide all of the kiosks that show the whole course, that kind of show each hole. And so it's going to be set up really fun, really, really a nice thing. And we're going to be able to leave it really very natural. We are going to put some trees in because it needs some obstacles. And they're going to tell us what. I don't play Frisbee golf, so they're going to kind of direct where we need to put obstacles. And okay, so that's what we're going to create there. We originally had a mainline system that came in here to service these soccer fields. We're going to go ahead and put that main line in. It'll be capped off because there really is no need for that main line with this Frisbee golf. But, 5 years from now, 8 years from now, there might be more water than everybody knows what to do with, and they may make a decision that they want to take, the city may want to take that Frisbee golf out and put the soccer fields in. I've already talked to Bob with Parks and Rec on this, and he agrees that that would be a really good thing to do, to put that main line in so that the infrastructure is there in any event that the city would want to put those soccer fields in. So that will go in. We do have to take, whoops, what did I just do? See, I got too easy with my button here. I got too familiar with it. Okay, so
Hit from current slide.
okay, thank you. So we did have to take out these walkways. We were going to put them in originally, but the Frisbee golf suggested that might not be a good idea. You don't want to encourage people to be walking around where they're throwing discs, because not everybody throws a disc the way he did. So, by the way, right here, this is the two-half basketball courts right there. So we are going to take out those sidewalks, but we're going to put in the main line. So we've got that. This is, I put this slide in because I wanted you to see that this is going to kind of be the pathway that people will be able to come and walk. And if you go down there, that gives them a lot of walking space without those. Everything that is that's hatched, that sidewalk already installed. The blue is going to be concrete walkways that we're putting in. Now the green, I didn't even address that. Around the dog park, we're going to put a stabilized DG walking trail outside of the fence, so that if people want to walk while other people are doing their dogs or walk their dog. So we are going to put in a stabilized, and we'll put some dog trash things around that, so that's kind of a nice thing. And that's it. I'm excited with the park. It's going to be very low maintenance, very low water, and there's a lot of activity. So there's kind of a little bit of, there's something for everybody in the park. The kids, the stroller moms, the people who want to work out, the teenagers for the disc. I don't know if they're teenagers, but I don't know who plays disc. But anyway, so I'm excited about it. We're starting construction on it now. It should take us about 5 months to get it in. And once we do that, we are going to have a nice grand opening, have you guys there. So it's going to be really fun. So thank you for letting me share it. I have been very excited about my park.
I have a real quick question.
Yes.
Question for you.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Roscoe.
Absolutely.
If you may, can you put the map back? I appreciate it. Lighting. I know if you've been part of that town, once I realized this was going up, I actually took a tour on the grounds and walked around and kind of envisioned what you have planned here. So I appreciate you kind of going back and considering our environment, our current state right now with our water drought. Back to the maps.
Did I give her control?
Oh, I'm not sure which map.
That's fine here. Mm-hmm. The lighting, can you tell us, I mean, I think one of the biggest concerns I know for my park that surround me and my community, I don't live that far from here, lighting. Can you tell us how that park will be lighted? Because I know this park is pretty far from the city, and I don't know how frequent it will be patrolled by our city police department, but one of the biggest ways to deter vandalization and crime from happening here with our young teenagers, will there be sufficient lighting? Well,
Interesting you'd say that. I just brought the lighting plan and handed it to Bob right back here. You want to show them the map? It's going to be all solar, because that's, again, most cost-effective for the city. So we are putting the solar lights in, and that was suggested. So I did bring in, we have this. So we have, so we do have we have a lot of lighting going on. Everywhere you see a yellow is a light. And Bob is going to look at this, and if he feels that there needs to be a few more in there, he'll let us know. The only area that we're not going to light is going to be the Frisbee golf area,
Okay.
because that doesn't make sense.
No, no.
But the rest of it is all going to be lit, yes, with solar lighting.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the, now, has that been submitted to the Planning Commission, or has that gone, the lights?
She just gave it to Bob.
I just gave it, yeah,
Okay.
because we had a lighting plan that of course, lit the soccer fields. So that doesn't make any sense. So, so I wanted him to make sure he looks at this and make sure that it's good with
And then one final question.
Sure.
Who owns the land? I'm going to use the little pointer. Who owns the land that's adjacent right here?
That is Riverside Land Conservancy.
Okay.
That is mitigation area.
Mitigation area.
And people are allowed to kind of go down in there, but they're in the original plan. There was a kind of a little walkway that came down in here. This is before the 2014 change. That kind of came down in here and set back in here, and it drops down pretty significantly. If you go out there, it kind of is up high, and then it kind of drops down into there. Probably not a good idea to encourage hanging out down there.
No, yeah.
Not that they're not going to go down there. It's not fenced off so that people can go down there.
Yeah, I noticed that, and that's what I was asking. I saw this brush that was here because, like I said, I took my kids with me, and already I could see them, go to hill, and want to go down. And so I was concerned. It was like, wait a minute, if we're not going to, I know we can't put a walkway there, because at first I know that play area was going to be over here, but people are going to park here. People are going to actually walk all the way to the restroom over there, or they're just going to drive over there and use the restroom. I have kids, so you go to the park. 10 minutes later, they got to go potty. So
well, hopefully they're playing up here. But if they're playing down here, you know what? It's not that far a walk. It's really not that bad, and we need our kids to walk.
No,
we need our kids to walk.
I'm not concerned with that. I agree, but
you can't have down here. Putting a bathroom down here is just so expensive.
I was just concerned with safety here, putting maybe some brush here and here, making sure that no one goes up or goes down or rolls down the hill or anything in those. I just don't think that. I don't know how you're going to block this area off. Putting shrub there, because I know, like at Trevino Park, there's that slope that's there, and when I coach soccer, you see kids going up that hill, they're running down there, and then all of a sudden they're rolling down the hill. Not because they want to, because they, in a gopher hole or something. So I'm just afraid of liability, and those sort. I don't know if the staff has taken a look on ways that we can put brush there, not allow anybody to go in that area.
Yeah, there's
Disturb the environment.
The Conservancy.
What's that?
We need to check with the Conservancy.
Yeah, there's you have to be so careful what you even put
Can't
near.
disrupt any of
That's
the
what I'm saying.
Because if you put anything close enough in there that is what they would consider non-native, then we're all in trouble.
Okay.
I also don't want
We can
people.
look at it, though.
I also don't want people going into that and destroying it by putting human pathways. And
You know what though? They don't care that they don't mind that people walk in there. They don't mind that.
Okay.
I don't know why, but they don't seem to be bothered that people can walk in there. But boy, I tell you, they don't want a non-native plant in there.
Thank you.
But you know what? I would be more than happy
Keep an eye on that.
to talk to. If staff, when we get ready to do this, if they see an area that they want us, or the city says that they want us to put some extra shrubbery, we're fine with that.
And we'll work with Cheryl.
And we're fine with that.
Mayor Pro Tem White, you had a question?
Real quick, first of all, my kids are going to love the Frisbee golf. They will
Good.
be excited about
Good.
that. I just real quick, what's a stabilized DG?
Stabilized DG. Do you want to, Brett? Do you want to explain exactly what it is?
Is there
He's a construction guy. He's the one that's really going to actually get.
is there a
get
place
it
in the
built.
city that we can use as an example?
You have it going down the Palm Islands.
Okay.
That's the DMG that's going on the east side of the Palm Islands all the way up.
It's compacted
Okay.
dirt.
So that it doesn't wash away. It's compacted,
Got it. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember
but it's
Condon?
permeable. So
I just want to say I really appreciate your flexibility. When you found a rock in your road, you just moved it out of the way and came up with another plan. And it looks like it's going to be a beautiful park.
it's going to be fun. Of course, you know, my kids, we don't really live as close as I'd like to, but my kids have already said, when it's done, we want to go. So I've promised them they will come to the park to play. So, any other questions?
Thank you. Councilmember Knight?
I just wanted to thank you. We've been through this before, and it's really turned into something wonderful. Thank you for the dog parks. I've had a number of requests just in the last month or so asking for more dog parks, so that's wonderful.
All right,
Thank you.
good.
Very, very exciting.
Thank you for indulging me. Thank you for letting me share this because I am excited about it. Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you. We have one more presentation, and that's from the Beaumont Library.
Good evening, Mayor Lara and council members. My name is Sabina Brady. You have to excuse my weak voice tonight, sorry. I'm with the Beaumont Library District Board of Trustees, and I was here last year and brought the architects, and we presented all of our wonderful plans and everything, but most of you are new, and we're here for that. So I wanted to come and give you guys an update about what's going on at the library, let you know how we're trying to keep up with the growth. We have a slideshow that can just play while I'm talking. So I just want to kind of demonstrate our needs and the needs that we see and what we're doing, the plans that we have to meet those needs in the future. The Beaumont Library District began in 1909 as a project of the San Gorgonio Women's Club, women who wanted to provide the people in their area with the best possible information, entertainment, and educational opportunities. They formed the library district with a vote of the people in 1911, and they didn't stop until their efforts paid off with a $10,000 grant from Mr. Andrew Carnegie to build a community library. Since that time, the library has provided a variety of materials and services to promote the communication of ideas and enrich the lives of the people of this area. The library is committed to the belief that we should serve the community as a center of reliable information, support the educational, civic, and cultural activities of local groups and organizations, provide opportunities and encouragement for children, young people, and adults of all ages to educate themselves continuously, provide for the pursuit of enriching entertainment through multiple formats of materials, and seek to identify community needs and develop services to meet those needs. For over 100 years, the library has adhered to these ideals, acting for the community and growing along with the community. From its inception, the library has continued to provide increasing services to meet the needs of our growing community. 50 years after the construction of the Carnegie Wing, the community supported an expansion of the building to provide for Beaumont's increased population. Ever-increasing population, as you can see. We've gone 50 years again, and population growth has outpaced the library's ability to serve the community in a facility that is significantly undersized. As the population of the area we serve has grown, the number of new library members has also grown at a steadily increasing rate. The number of materials in the library's collection has grown to about 75,000 today. However, that's about half the number of materials that a community of our size deserves. Circulation of material has also jumped dramatically. Fortunately, implementation of new technologies has allowed the library to address this increase without lines of members waiting to check out materials. You can see our services there. Today, the library is housed in the familiar California and 8th Street location and serves Beaumont's growing population in desperately cramped surroundings. We envision that in the next 20 years, our activity will increase by leaps and bounds as Beaumont and the surrounding area strain toward the projected build-out, possibly doubling in size. Yet right now, we're at the bottom of the California library jurisdictions and standards for a community of our size. We have less than a quarter of the space that we should have, and what we are lacking is hampering our ability to provide adequate services and materials. That concerns us. In response to these needs, we actually asked members of our community to help define for us what elements they would like to see in a library facility. Those responses Those responses led to a building design. Here are their responses. That includes space for increased programming with a meeting room for more than 300 people to take advantage of live programming, meeting rooms for community groups and organizations to use, space for increased shelving to spread out the collection as it continues to grow and allow for the addition of new materials and formats, a quiet area where those who wish to concentrate can without distraction, and space outside the building for adequate parking. Also an adequate number and optimum location for our restrooms, and space for future growth and expansion. We'd like to expand the library services to the community, providing even more variety and diversity, yet this is really difficult given our current space limitations. The strength of our library lies in the diversity of our services and materials, as well as the diversity of the people that we serve. It's the people of our community who provide the vital base of interests, ideas, and support as the library faces the future. Remember that as you support the library and its growth, you support the growth of opportunities for the people of Beaumont. So as we move forward in this project, we're exploring a variety of options for funding. And we just wanted to give you guys an idea of what we're doing, let you know that we continue moving forward with our plans, and give you guys the opportunity just to support us in that. Do you guys have any specific questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to public comment period. Any one person may address City Council on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back table and give it to the City Clerk. There is a 3-minute limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. State law prohibits the Council from discussing or taking actions brought up by your comments. And with that, we'll go to Council reports. Councilmember Roscoe?
Mayor, do we have any?
We have 2 public speakers.
Sorry. Moving right along. I'll go ahead and open public comment at 6:40.
Ron Meisel.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Ron Meisel. I live over at Four Seasons, and I know this is not about the Melrose. I know that will be taken care of next week. But I started a petition a couple weeks ago, and I have 134 names that signed on this. We live in an area called 7B, and in our DPFG, it says it will get an increase of 2% every year starting July 1st. It also says in a couple columns down that there is a possibility of the City Council to go ahead and get rid of that 2%, that you have the sole discretion to go ahead and do that. So what we'd like to do is, I know we have the meeting next week, but we'd like to get this on the agenda, because from what I understand, if it's not on the agenda, the City Council can't vote on it. So is there any way of us getting this on the agenda for a vote in March or April?
Council? I don't have a problem with...
Can we respond in public comments right now?
You can.
You can't get into a detailed discussion. You can make brief comments and response, but you can't, it's not an agendized item, so we can't go into a detailed discussion of it. You can always, under the Brown Act, vote to place an item on a future agenda.
Could you meet with Mr. Meisel and explain to him what we did with the other part of Four Seasons? This is, I'm assuming this is not, obviously not an area that was already addressed in Four Seasons.
No, Mr. Meisel and I have had several conversations. He lives in 7B, and the homeowners in 7A came to council last year and removed the 2% escalator, and what I understand is the residents in 7B would like to do the same thing.
Now, when they came to us, did they come to us with a proposal, or did we work with them to create a proposal?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I wasn't involved, so I don't know. I know it came before council.
Oh, yes. Okay.
What we'd like for the 2% to be removed, but not to add any time to the bond. That's what 7A did, from what I understand. I could be wrong.
Elizabeth, where I'm going with this is for us to suggest to put something on that we really don't know what, what the proposal is or what the suggestion or the offer is going through staff first.
What we can do is we can put an item on the agenda that outlines all of the terms and conditions of 7B so that everybody understands, because I don't know if it's possible to not add the 10 years on without, and remove the 2% escalator. We would have to invite our financial advisor.
Okay.
That's about as far as we should go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your
Who
comment.
can I give this petition to?
Deputy City Clerk, Ron.
So a discussion item, basically, is what you could use consensus for right now.
Correct, and so I want to confirm that I have consensus to put a general staff report on the agenda outlining the terms of 7B and the options.
Informational.
Okay.
Is that correct?
It's a financial burden to us. We're on fixed incomes. We don't work anymore. 2%, mine, I have a small house, which is the smallest Melrose.
Okay.
Went up $61 in a year and a half.
So the
We'll look at that.
consensus is
Thank
to
you.
put the item on a future agenda.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Next speaker.
Ron Roy.
Hello, council members. How are you today? I recently learned that Moreno Valley is proposing to expand its boundaries by 30 square miles through a massive annexation to its north that would include not only the south-facing hills of the Badlands, but also San Mateo Canyon, right up to Beaumont city limits. In my view, this is an existential threat to the identity of Beaumont. Moreno Valley's nakedly ambitious and provocative actions are already drawing fire from the city of Riverside, which will be disputing the western flank of their proposed annexation. I suspect also that Calamasa will be contesting the northeastern portion of the annexation. This is why Beaumont has to strike very decisively and very quickly. Beaumont, more than any city, is entitled to control the future of San Mateo Canyon and the Badlands foothills. Beaumont should annex San Mateo lands as far as the San Bernardino border to the west, Highway 79 to the east, Moreno Valley city limits to the south, and Calamasa city limits to the north. The next LAFCO meeting is on February 25th. Don't be surprised to see Moreno Valley proposal on that agenda. I'm contacting you first here because I believe you will be more concerned about preserving San Mateo Canyon's rural character. I doubt that the area's current trustee, Marion Ashley, on behalf of the County of Riverside, will do anything to stop Moreno Valley's encroachment because of his blatantly pro-mega growth agenda. I believe the existing property owners within San Mateo Canyon who enjoy their open spaces and their bucolic and rural lifestyle would prefer joining Beaumont rather than Moreno Valley. You just need to take one look at Moreno Valley to know how badly San Mateo could look in the near future. Anticipate that large developers on the south-facing Badlands who are funding Moreno Valley City Council members, in my estimation, will be jockeying their property owner votes to help this annexation succeed. I pray that our City Council members here in Beaumont never fall into the same trap, working for developers rather than the people. So it's up to Beaumont to protect this area and Beaumont's image rather than Moreno Valley's and increase Beaumont's prestige. If we don't, Moreno Valley will most surely be knocking on our doorstep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Are the lights not working?
Yeah, no, we're in training.
Okay.
She's learning.
No more speakers.
I'm right there with you. Okay, then with that, I'll go ahead and close public comment at 6:47. That brings us to council reports. Now, Councilmember Roscoe, would you like to?
I'm probably forgetting something, but I'm not in the best feeling here, so I'm not going to comment tonight.
Councilmember Knight?
Well, thank you, Mayor Laura. Good evening. I guess one of the most interesting things I did was I participated in the San Gregorio Memorial Hospital and the Hospital Association of Southern California and a focus group. It was giving opinions of my opinions and perspective of the health in the community. And this is a huge conglomerate that has come together, and it was quite interesting. Although I can't share with you any more than that, they'll be putting all the statistics together, and actually I'm very proud of our community. We've done very well in health issues, health-wise. So that was a lot of fun. Riverside Transit Agency Budget Committee, something in the future we're going to see, we were looking at, it's UCR Mobility Hub Center, and there's a conceptual study report which eventually our students from here will be able to ride the bus. It won't be for a while, but right now they have problems at UCR with the CNG, and they will only allow CNG in because the buses can't turn around. So there's a whole study, and they're going to be putting this concept in place, and it'll eventually benefit us, which I'm excited about. T-Now Committee, we're continuing to work on, if any of you haven't done our senior citizen rider survey, please do. It's important. We're trying to look for some grant funding to help our seniors that live in our community get to Kaiser or the desert, outlying areas. Taxi service is so expensive when you can't drive anymore. And so that's something we're working on. We're looking for the input of about 5,000 people. We're hoping eventually maybe we get something. And then probably the most fun thing, I was out at the AYSO soccer on the next day that you guys were and did the coin toss. Phenomenal group for our kids in the community. And they had about 600 kids, plus doubled by parents, that were in our community over the weekend. A lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Condon.
Thank you. I had an opportunity this last week to spend a day in the City Council office here, and I thank you, Elizabeth, for that opportunity and for you giving so much of your day. I was particularly impressed to see the efficient disbursement of our law enforcement assets. Also, I was quite surprised to see the very extensive community services that we offer in this city. I hope that as we move ourselves forward in this positive direction we are going, that we can maintain those community services. They really are outstanding and a credit to, I think, what is the heart of the community that we live in. Something that was brought up in the meeting last week, which is something that's very close to me, and that has to do with the homeless. And there was a lot of discussion about not giving people money who are standing on the corners. And I often have that same struggle, because I never know what that money is going to be used for, and then I'm thinking, well, I should not be judgmental, but I always worry that I'm leaving someone standing there who might be hungry. So I've come up with a solution that works for me, because I do feel a responsibility that the money might not be used for the intended purpose. But I recommend that if people want to do something to help, these are cards that you can get at fast food restaurants. Carry these in your ashtray, and when you walk, you come up to a corner and there's someone there that you believe truly needs food, give them one of these cards. And if they give you a snarky look, I'm not sure if that's a word, but I made it up. If they give you a funny look, then you know it really isn't food that they needed and they wanted your money for other purposes. So I just encourage that as a solution, and that way you never have to feel that you are not providing food to someone who really needs it. So that's just a suggestion that I have, and I'm going to leave these cards here with our law enforcement officers to disperse as they see fit. But it's just something to think about. And again, I want to thank you, Elizabeth, for the day. We went over the interim budget that we're going to be seeing this evening, and there are a lot of things in progress right now that I think are moving us forward. But there's a lot yet to do, and I still have a lot of questions and a number of concerns that I'm sure we're going to be dealing with in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem White?
I, too, attended the AYSO Cherry Cup, And I know that last year it was a huge success. Hotels were overflowing. Restaurants were not prepared for the number of people coming out. And I know this year was down a little bit because they were scheduled up against the Super Bowl weekend, which cut into their attendance a little bit. But I think it's an important event that definitely presents Beaumont to a lot of the communities many distances away. A lot came from Arizona. So I think next year we should do everything we can to support that. We have another great event coming up, the second annual golf tournament at Morongo Tiquec Golf Course. It's the Symetra. It's the ladies, sort of like the, what's it called? It's the qualifying tour for the LPGA, and that's on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday next weekend. I will be there Saturday. I think it's a great opportunity, again, to support something that's going on in the community that does bring business and people in. And I understand this year there is no fee to attend, so if you can make it to that, that'd be great. And finally, I went to, as a liaison for the Water District, I went to a very interesting Water District meeting last week, where there was an item on the agenda that the Past Water Agency, which is the wholesaler to the local water districts, wanted to, or there was a move to restructure that water agency from being an elected board of elected officials to a board of officials appointed by the different water districts. And I bring that up because Beaumont came up in the discussion, and the way Beaumont came up in the discussion is eventually the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District agreed to delay that discussion for 60 days because they believed that it was brought about because local agencies were not able to play nice and work together, which is something that Beaumont has had a problem with, in my opinion, for a long time. And then they brought up the historic meeting that we had with the Beaumont City Council, the Water District elected boards for Yucaipa Water District and Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District, which we held, I believe it was in November. And in that meeting, we had agreed to consider a regional water approach, and we had given the group a timeline of March that we would come back and report to them. And one of the commissioners on the Beaumont Cherry Valley Water District made a comment that was proof that agencies could work together, and that they were excited and looking forward to Beaumont coming back in March to continue those discussions. And I know that we've had some obstacles come up and some issues come up that we're not really in the position that we thought we would be 3 months ago. I'm hoping you can give us somewhat of an update in your city manager report as to where we are on that, but I think it would be a positive step if you have consensus for the council to send a letter to the water districts that outlines where we are, what our progress is, and some kind of timetable as to where we can we are ready for a productive meeting with the water district. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. I have nothing more to add. And with that, we'll go to the city's treasurer report.
Thank you, Mayor Lauren. Thank you, council members. The warrants have been reviewed. There were some questions from various council members, and I think the monthly discussions during our meeting with city staff, and all of the questions were answered. I do note that one of them is one of the more controversial. We did a warrant for Beaumont Electric to the 16th fund, and Beaumont Electric, that was an emergency call that a number of other services were called, and Beaumont Electric was the only one to respond, and it was a sewer issue, so that was well taken care of, and it certainly was. Okay. we're good then. A new calendar has been developed by the city for printing checks, and then the verification will follow the printing of checks. They've gone to a weekly basis, which I think is very positive from both a reporting perspective, and also it's just simpler, easier to respond, and there's a smaller amount to review, so it works out well. It also eliminates any possibility of any late fees by doing it on a more prompt basis. So I thought that was an excellent choice by staff to move over to that schedule. The next meeting of the Standing Financial Committee is actually tomorrow night, and I've put here some bullet items that are on that agenda for the public's perspective. There'll be a review of the management policies that were recommended by staff. There's going to be a discussion about the adherence to the state controller's office findings and what we're doing, and just a general discussion on how our progress is going with city staff on that. We're going to discuss the goals and objectives of the Standing Financial Committee. That was always intended by council for them to get involved in the discussion about what the goals should be. So that's one of the items on the agenda. We're going to try to project out on those goals for 6 months, 1 year, and depending on time and how detailed we get, we may go beyond that. But the intention is to break it down into small bites first and make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to share what their goals and missions are with the Standing Financial Committee. So I encourage anyone who would like to attend that meeting. It's at 6:30 tomorrow evening in these chambers. So by all means, if you're interested in hearing about how that discussion goes, feel free to attend. I will note that if any council members attend, you cannot speak unless you're on the committee, and that was shared with me from the city attorney. So, but by all means, for informational purposes, we'd love to see you. The filing of the 700 forms is just going to be introduced to the members. There's not going to be a real discussion on that. The distribution has been given by the city, and just if there's any questions about the purpose or any of the summary detail of that, we'll be able to share a little bit of knowledge with the committee on that. And then the next thing is we're going to get an update on the beginning of our research on a banking RFP. That was one of the things that the Standing Financial Committee, with discussions with staff, decided to go ahead and start doing some of the legwork on that to help staff. And so we'll take a little bit of temperatures on how that progress is going on the research. Following that, we're going to be getting into the mid-year financial report that's going to be presented tonight by the interim finance director. I've highlighted some things here that came out in the discussion of that when we went over it in our meeting with finance. One of the things I do want to note is there was some discussion about making sure that we put in the investment report for the city, because that's a compliance issue. It is included in it, and it does have its own heading, so it's easy to note the investment report. So we're in full compliance with that by doing that and putting it into this report, and we're also in compliance with our schedule of monthly reporting. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Nancy.
Mayor, I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
You had mentioned in here that the bank reconciliation is being completed for August. I thought it had been reported to us previously that we were more like October, November. Did I misunderstand that or misrepresent that?
And I had heard discussion that we were farther along, but the most succinct update I have now is August.
Okay. And where were we when the State Controller's Office, or MGO, when MGO reported the bank reconciliation? Where were we?
Good question. When MGO came in, we were April and May was actually being done. We caught up with June and July. That was about the time that Urban Futures came in, right about that time period. And now the one that's finalized is actually August.
Okay.
I think there's some clarification. December was the last bank rec done by the previous finance director, and so that would have been December of 2014. When I was appointed in June, we were still at December 2014. So it was, I believe MGO was here in April or May, so we were probably 6 months behind, 4 months behind on bank recs at that time.
Okay, I thought we had had a report saying we had really caught up.
We have, but August is still where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that at some point there was discussion. I just want to clarify this because I don't want it there to be there was discussion that we were catching up and that we were in May and then March and then we were in April. So there is a little bit of confusion on that. That was when we had some of the former finance staff in, and that was before Elizabeth, our interim city manager, was actually in charge. So there's a lot of confusion over where we were on solid ground and those reconciliations during that period of time. But it did get clarified, I believe, about July, exactly where we were.
Councilmember Condon?
Is there any estimate as to when we will have those all the way up to date?
I can answer that. We do have an accountant, a temporary staff member that is his full-time job. It is getting easier and faster because we did not have the end of the year allocation, lump sum allocations. I guess that's a nice way to put it. And lump sum allocations that were normally done in June at the end of the fiscal year. So it is easier, and the accountant is able to do journal entries as we go. But we still have a ways to go because of the point of sale procedures that we have in place and different. It's getting faster, but it's still a slow process.
Thank you.
I'm guessing 60 days before we're caught up.
If everything stays the same.
Okay.
Yeah. That's encouraging. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Nancy. That brings us to action item 4A. Fiscal year 2015-16, mid-year of December 2015, financial report. We're at the halfway mark. Staff report?
So, Mayor and Council, Onyx Jones, our interim finance director, will be giving part of the report, and then at some point we will introduce Milana Taylor to you. She is a new accounting manager that we brought on board, and Onyx and Milana have put this report together with the help of myself and staff. And the reason we're introducing Milana to you tonight is because tonight is Onyx's last night with us. She has taken a position with another city, and so Milana will be front and center for all financial reports from now on.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. We're here this evening to present to you the mid-year report. This is the first, I believe, in quite a while for the city of Beaumont. Just to give you a little background on the process, with the mid-year, we went and we pulled the expenditures in the GL that occurred from July through December. And we had all of the department heads review things. They did a lot of cleanup, things that were miscoded. Now that we have budget, they can tell where items should be coded. They also reviewed and looked for budget adjustments that were required, and that's what's a part of the report. Some of the budget adjustments would be because we're running high on one account, but we're much lower on another account. And that happens. You can do your best estimate when you start the year, but you never know until the actual year begins. And other items could be revenue that we did not account for during the budget process. We weren't aware of it, or it ran much higher than we thought, as well as expenditures. The good news is, with all the adjustments that were required, we were able to still balance the budget. So there's no impact to the bottom line with all of the mid-year adjustments that we have presented here that you would be approving this evening. So the net effect is zero. Some of the reports that are part of mid-year are similar to the ones that were in your September interim report. So just to keep things consistent, so you'll start to see a trend and learn how to read those schedules. I will say that in the future, the goal is that you'll also have prior year information. Most cities, when they have an interim report, they have prior year versus current year. So you have a comparison. Unfortunately, as we've discussed in the past, prior year totals that were created for budget were lump sum totals. There was like a total of 4 expenditure totals for the general fund. It was based on categories, so it was impossible to do a comparison from last year to this year based on our line item detail that we have this year. And so next year, when you are in fiscal year 17, you'll be able to have a comparison of this year with last year. So that will also be good. You'll also have actual information from previous years that has been audited, a part of the document, so you can see where you were actual versus budget. We're still in the process of closing audit. Milana Taylor, the interim city manager, discussed is coming on board. She has 26 years CPA experience, so she's going to be key in helping the city close the books for 15 and get good numbers, so that can now be a part of the report. The schedules that you have reviewed are summary of cash balances, all fund types, so that's a summary of all the funds, special revenue funds, general fund, enterprise funds. So that's a kind of a quick snapshot of revenues and expenditures. And then we broke down general fund revenues, and then we broke down general fund expenditures. And then you also have, after that, your enterprise funds, the detail with those funds. And then we have an update of the internal controls. Just kind of a reminder, we did go over this in September. I know there was a request to get an update of what steps we've done so far. So in the packet, not on the presentation, but in the actual packet, I made sure that I included the items that we provided in September, and then I just did a cumulative and I added on to the things that we've done since September through December to kind of address the internal control issues. So in your packet you have a comprehensive view. Tonight though, I'll just discuss the items that we've addressed recently. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Milana, and she's going to go over the summary of cash with you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad to be a part of the finance office here for the City of Beaumont, where I feel like I can make a difference and really help us move forward. For the first presentation, we have the summary of cash balances. This is a listing of the bank accounts that the city holds, and this is simply the activity for just the month of December for each category, deposits and payments. The ending balance does agree to the statements themselves. In the future, one of the items that we want to include is a column for items that are outstanding but have not cleared the bank account, so that you have a final column of the reconciled bank account balances. This is the summary of cash balances, which just tells you how much is in each account at the end of each of the 3 months in the second quarter of the fiscal year that we're looking at. The balances have changed slightly, but not hugely. Most of it is from transfers between accounts in order to cover the funds that need to be in the payroll account and into the workers' compensation account. The Bank of Hemet accounts are current and have been reconciled because the activity there is much less and it's easier to follow than it is with the Citibank accounts. That's where the time is being taken for those reconciliations. The LAIF account has not changed because the interest has not been credited yet. That comes in at the end of January. So the ending October balance is different than the end of September balance because that's when we got the interest. The interest is approximately $3,000 per quarter. And in the future, we'll also have a more detailed investment accounting where we can see the historical earnings and keep track of the LAIF funds from that aspect.
Okay, so we'll now move into our review, and I'll kind of go through this quickly because there's more detail in the future slides. Just things to note here is that you'll notice for CFDs, January through May, the revenue is fairly low compared to the budget, and that is because that's related to property tax revenue, where we see the large bulk of it January through May time period. So that will be reflected in future reports. And also transit, you will see, and we're going to talk more about transit later, that fund is a reimbursement type of fund. So we spend the money and then get reimbursed. So you'll see those revenues coming in the future as well. On the expenditure side, the general fund, the requested adjustment of $941, we'll go into that in detail next. Just important to note here with the COPS, they do have a grant. That's, sorry, I should say, because there's different names here. So that's Fund 55, and it's called SLESF. And so that one is a grant, and those expenditures will be spent this year. The police department are purchasing equipment with that grant. It's not quite reflected because they haven't spent the money yet, but it is forthcoming. And then the CFD looks high compared to the revenue coming in, and that's Fund 14. And that's because we made a $9 million, we discussed before, a $9 million debt payment in September. And the larger portion of that is due around September. In March, it's just interest. So in September, it's principal and interest, and in March, it's simply interest. So that evens out by year end.
And August, we have a payment. We do have a payment due to debt service March 1st,
Correct. Correct.
Do you remember the amount?
It was about $3 million. Was it? How much was it, Tina? Yeah.
Okay.
$3 million to $4 million or so. And that will be in a future report. So the next quarterly report we give you will have that information. I did want to talk about the CFD. There is a budget item request there for $339,000, and it is detailed in the report that you have. And so I just wanted to talk about what makes up that amount, because this is the only area we talk about the CFDs. So of the $339,000, $50,000 was approved already by council in October 2015 for legal bond counsel, and that's straddling and Yoka. And then $94,000 was approved by council in November 2015, and that was for Urban Futures and the reconciliation that they're doing. And their cost was spread out over several funds. And finally, the additional amount that's being requested, $100,000 is being requested for an audit. This has actually been a request by some council members and some public records requests. We had Webb and Associates draw up what a sample looks like, and it's this huge spreadsheet, and it has every single improvement area in the city and what costs are allocated or could be allocated to every single improvement area. So if someone wanted to know how much debt was related to that improvement area, or how much expense for maintaining it, or how much admin, or whatever costs there were that exist in CFD, it would show it by improvement area. So Webb did a sample, but it has to be done in reality. You know, it has to have real numbers in there. And so they have given us estimates of the cost for what it would take to produce that type of document. An RFP process can be done to hire someone to be able to do that, but that means they actually go out and work with Bob Sherwood, and they look at how much cost and how much time, how many man hours are spent in all of those areas, and how much is reasonable and what should be expected to be charged. It trues up the number, and then when the assessments are done on the tax rolls, they're using real numbers and not just taking a calculation and using, you know, some methodology, but they have actual good numbers. But it needs to be done, and there's no staff to do that. So there's budget for that. There's also been requests for prepayment research. Where did the money go? And that needs to be done. A thorough research needs to be done on that because it spanned over several years. And so we've put budget in there to address the public records requests, in addition to satisfy everyone in understanding what really happened to those funds. So that is what's been requested, and that's part of the 339. And then the mitigation fee fund, that $94,000 has already been approved by council. That's the piece for the reconciliation that council approved again in November with Urban Futures. So that takes care of that. And then we go to the general fund. On the general fund side for revenues, what we found is for sales tax, Our revenues are coming in higher than anticipated. We do receive this information from HDL. I've used HDL projections for years, and they're always very accurate, pretty close. And sales tax is received in arrears, so it's hard to actually show that, because there's two things going on. One piece of it is that they're received in arrears, so we're always behind. The other connection that we know about is the impact of the triple flip and the delay of that money. And so we'll have a 60-day revenue accrual done. So money that we get in July and August will then be booked back into June. And that amount is estimated to be about $360,000. So you won't truly catch up to your 100% number until, August, September timeframe, when we get it and book it and code it back into that account. But the increase is based on their projections. License and permits is being increased by $92,000, but it's also being increased on the expenditure side. And this is for planning. So developers come in and pay money to have services, whether it's plan checks, inspections, et cetera. And then it goes back out because we also have to pay the vendors to conduct the inspections. So there's a wash there. Overhead allocation 125 is simply the ROPS. You recall recently approving it for the second half of the year, and so that's the 125 being put now in the budget now that it's approved. We had the previous 6 months in the budget, but now that the ROPS has been approved for the second half of the year, that is now reflected in the budget. And we have miscellaneous 435. This was an item that we were aware of during the budget process, but didn't have enough information on it. We didn't have enough background. This is insurance recovery and cost recovery. Some of it is animal control. Some of it is also money that we get back from recovering from insurance company claims, et cetera. So now that we have a better handle on that, we're adjusting budget because we had no budget in there at all. A large portion of it is the animal control contract we have with Banning and Calamasa. And then use of money and property is rental income that we did not budget enough for during the budget process. So those are the revenue adjustments. On the expenditure side, had quite a bit of activity. The largest adjustment that needed to be done was for workers' compensation. We budgeted $271,000. However, a more accurate estimate, now that we have more information, is more about $481,000. And so we had to adjust that. Most of it was to the general fund, $441,000. However, $40,000 was allocated to transit because transit also has an employees. And the detail that I am just speaking of, it is outlined in your document under general fund expenditures, so you can find that there. Another large adjustment were the concessions. Council is aware that all the MOUs are now signed and approved, and as a result of that, we did need to make an adjustment to our original budget for the amount of $361,000. We were able to offset that with an adjustment to the police department, and we had some cash out budget available because their cash outs were capped at 40 hours, and we stopped doing cash outs last year, December timeframe. So with the new MOUs in place, this was the savings that we could pool to help offset the concessions that were reached by council. Another large adjustment was with the city attorney / risk department. So in that department, we have our claims, we also have city attorney invoices, and then we have other attorney invoices. So in total, we did need to increase the budget. City attorney has assured us he's going to be working to make sure on all realms that we stay within budget by year end. Obviously, if a large claim comes up, he'll certainly let us know, but that would be an anomaly for the most part. As far as managing the fees and other city attorney costs, he feels that we will definitely stay within budget. I know there were a lot of activity in the first part of the year, just closing things out that had been open for a while, so do see that we'll be able to stay within budget before the year is out. There were some amendments to salaries. Just a brief overview. We had the city manager contract, concession agreement, I'm not sure what the proper term, settlement agreement that was finalized within the year. When we did budget, we didn't know what we were going to come up with. So when the settlement agreement was finalized, we did have an accurate number. Additionally, we still have to pay someone until we, hire someone permanently. So we're paying someone, and then we also are paying the settlement agreement. So there was an adjustment that was needed there. And we did have some savings because of vacancy in other areas. So again, as I was saying, the net impact of all the changes is zero. The police department did request to just move budget. They would like to begin leasing vehicles to help save money. They need about 5 vehicles this year. To purchase 5 vehicles, you're looking at about $500,000. But to lease it, you're looking at $35,000 for the lease payment, and then $25,000 or so for equipment to place in the vehicles. So all of that is within their budget. They were able to take it from other line items, but that is a request that they have. And then the other request is for software. We did work with the vendor that we currently have to come up with a comprehensive solution for addressing the general ledger and all the internal control items that they addressed with the state controller's office, and then also to address planning and some of their needs. So that will be brought to council separately, but we just wanted to get budget established so we have the money there for that in the future when we're ready. The sewer fund. Not a whole lot going on in the sewer fund. Revenues are recorded every 2 months. I made a manual adjustment in this report so that council could see how much revenue has been generated by sewer through December, and we're on target. Sewer expenditures are low, one, because most vendors bill in arrears, but the other item is there were some items that were budgeted, and I discussed it in the narrative. For example, Wildermuth, we had quite a bit budgeted for that project that we're not going to do, so there's savings there. The recommendation is to use it for some of the maintenance and capital improvement projects, and that's what is currently being looked at and developed. I believe we're going to bring an interim engineer in to help make that assessment as well. So hopefully that can be used for those things. On the transit side, you see large adjustments on the revenue and expenditure side, and that's because we have some grant money that either we have already received and we need to budget for the expense, which were 3 buses. We also are doing a bus shelters and fencing for the transit area. And so the budget that is being established on the expenditure side is to cover the costs. On the revenue side, it's for the money that we still have yet to get reimbursed for in order to do those projects. And with that, we'll move to the update for internal controls. So here are some new things. We, have hired a temporary accounting manager who's also a CPA that will help with the audit and making sure we implement internal controls that are more, proper, that when we go through an audit will pass. We also have brought in, and we just started the training. We haven't finished the training. In fact, I got an email from this person today with some recommended changes to the purchasing ordinances and things that we have in place. But he is certified, and he's been very helpful, and he's sat down with staff and learned what process we currently do on our competitive bid process. And so just to give us ideas and suggestions and recommendations, he's got over 20 years experience at this. So, so that is currently ongoing. Well, I think once it's final, of course, it will come back to council for review and approval. Budget. We have looked at budget for addressing software because that was a huge finding from the State Controller's Office. And we did complete the audit with the Board of Equalization. We will probably owe $31,000 plus interest, and that is not a bad figure for what they had to deal with at all. So we took it and ran. It was an interesting audit, but we worked with them and they worked with us, so it worked out really well. We have completed the AB 1234 ethics training. The successor agency received the finding of completion. We went ahead and moved forward with submitting the information to the DOF to have the master loan agreement approved by the DOF. Employee loans have been reconciled. They've been paid off, so in fiscal year 16, they'll be totally removed from the books. That was an issue that was addressed with the State Controller's Office. The Standing Financial Committee is going to work with the Finance Department and developing policies and procedures. So these are internal things within the department, what we can and can't do, like petty cash limits and credit card procedures and things like that. And we'll run that through the committee first and then bring it to council for adoption. And then we did get, which is, most cities never get this, I'm kind of proud of this one. The State Controller's Office actually gave it in writing that they gave us till April to submit our reports without fining us. So we will not be fined, but it has to be done by April. With that, I conclude the report. If you have any questions, please ask.
Mayor, I have some questions.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
First of all, Onyx, you're going to be missed.
Thank you.
Seriously missed. I can't thank you enough for coming in when we were at the lowest point, I hope, financially.
Yes, yes. It's
and you were able to step right in and really help us. Earlier today, I asked staff to provide me with the last mid-year budget review we had, and that's this one here. Have you seen this one?
No.
Okay. So it was 4 pages, and it says we're doing great. And then I compare that to this one, which is a considerable difference. But I do have some questions about this one. Do we have, and maybe could we have, a line item in the budget for public works, public records request? Because I know that we keep hearing that that's an overwhelming process, and I think if people working on the public records request could keep track of their time,
yes,
it would help us understand how
much
overwhelming it really is. So I don't know if is that in here already?
No. But yes, with the new system as well, we can keep a project code set up so that staff codes their time to that project code when they work on public records requests. Is an excellent idea.
I'd like to get a financial number, an idea on
That's an excellent idea.
Okay.
It's in the budget now as part of the staff costs, but it's not, it's not separate.
Separate allocation.
Okay. Am I on a timer somewhere?
Should I do it?
Yeah.
Okay. The license permits, there was a planned check revenue increase by $92,000 due to increase in construction in the city. That number increased the revenue, but that's a revenue neutral item, right? Because it's for fees that we have to pay back out.
Exactly.
Okay. You had mentioned, and I was making notes, and I may not have seen it, and I saw it somewhere the first time I looked through this, about the 441 for workers' comp.
Correct.
Amendment adjustment, and I'm looking on the general fund. Is that broken out by like police department, or where do I see that on the general funds?
Yes, you'll see that if you go to every single department and look on the line that says 3022 workers' comp, you can see the different pieces.
So the total, say for police department, would be on the police department line under.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, you got it.
Okay. The general fund summary revenues, you have the $125,000 that you spoke about, the proposed amendment to the ROPs. There's been some confusion in the community. I want to just clarify this. That you said that $125,000 was because we approved the ROP. So we approved the process to request approval on the $21 million or $20 million loan, correct?
Right, that's separate.
Correct.
Okay. But in other words, no one has approved any of that funds
From the DOF?
Right.
No.
Okay, so we've started the process, and we've sent the request to consider it.
Correct. The 125 is just the admin portion.
Okay, because I had people the next couple of days going, oh, wow, you guys found a ton of money. You'll be able to put everything back.
That is, they've been asking, they're looking at it. Just know that it's a process to get approved. They've been asking for information, and in fact, I'm staying late till I get it done. I'm not leaving you guys until it's done, and we're sending information off to them as we get it complete.
And that's not an all or nothing approval. That's it could be all, but it could be a portion.
Right,
or
absolutely. They have the option of reducing it based on their findings.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Now I'm going to put Mr. Pinckney sort of on the hot seat here, but I think you knew it was probably coming. Not hot seat. I just want a better understanding of the expenses for the city attorney. I had it earmarked here. It says city attorney, but that is actually all of our legal expenses. Can you sort of address that and break that down? Where is it? Okay, here we go. So there's like, we adjusted the, we're at 1.428 million revised budget. That's not all what we're paying you as the city manager to do here, correct?
No, in terms of the budget, there was about $100,000, a little over $100,000 that was spent to settle claims made by third parties.
Okay.
And to handle litigation matters being handled by outside law firms.
Okay.
One of those claims you'll remember was the Clean Water Act case that was filed, that was settled. So that's about $100,000 of it, and then my understanding is about $400,000 of that was paid at the outset of the fiscal year to ERMAC for our insurance premiums.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yes, correct.
And we've visited that in previous council meetings,
correct?
Right. Okay. So the remainder, about $451,000 was spent during the first half of the year on legal fees, the city attorney's legal fees. And we understand we need to be in budget in that department as a whole.
Okay.
You had some big expenses with the ERMAC expense and just some of the issues we were dealing with in the first 6 months. So our objective is to manage to a budget by the end of the fiscal year.
And in that amount that you brought up, the 400 plus, does that include all the labor negotiation?
That's everything, yeah.
That's everything. So something that we do every other year, we don't need to do labor negotiations?
Right. Well, you tonight approved, I think, another MOU with a labor collective bargaining unit. So that should be, the time that's being spent on that and expenses should be significantly reduced from budgeting perspective.
And the fees and the appeal process of the WRCOG lawsuit, that's all in this 1.4 also?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's everything.
Okay, great.
Mayor, 5-minute timer went up.
Okay. I'll come back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Condon?
Well, I appreciated your report. I was just waiting to hear one word that I knew wasn't coming, and that was what our reserves are. And I'm hoping sometime in the near future we'll be able to have those reserves in our budget. But the one question I have is, you mentioned the HDL report. Overall, do you see any indication that our revenues are going to match our expenditures, that you don't see any indication that the tax income is not going to fall short this year?
Okay. I just want to reiterate for the question you had about the reserves, because that's a little touchy subject. So there are no reserves, but there is fund balance, and we are going to reconcile that. And that, thank you for reminding me, in future reports, the fund balance should also be a part of the report. She's absolutely correct. We should have fund balance, we should have prior year versus current year, and then have actual. But you're right, we do have to get the audit done to get a good fund balance number. So the second question on the HDL, so for sales tax, I do believe that we will meet the sales tax projections that HDL provided for us. And all the other tax revenues, when I compared them to last year, where we are so far, July through December, we're actually a little bit ahead of last year. I know Mayor Laura had some questions about some of those items as well. And so we are actually just a little bit ahead of where we were last year this time. It's so hard to tell. Every city has this problem because you don't get your real big payments until January through May, so you always look upside down and you hope that you reach your goal at the year end. But in looking at where we were last year to where we are this year, we're good, and so the large amounts will hit in the January through May time period, and I'm hoping that if what is true for the first 6 months, we may come out just a little bit ahead, possibly.
Thank you.
Any questions? You're good? Councilmember Roscoe?
Yeah, just, thank you for your guys' questions. Kind of covered mine too as well. I had one to add on there. I don't know where this would fit. I know we talked about, maybe this was prior to you, but at one point this council talked about the, maybe it falls under streetlights, but that signal, maybe it's not street lights, signal lights, maybe streets, about finding additional money in terms, because I see the expenditures, and so the light signals, what would that fall under?
It would be under Public Works.
Oh, Public Works. Okay. I see.
We split that, didn't we? Sorry. Or street.
So how would that
work? Well, we have budget for streets, and then we do have budget for Public Works.
That's just the contract to maintain the signals, though.
Right.
I think what you're asking for
is capital.
Signals. That's a capital.
That's under capital.
Right, and
correct.
we haven't actually produced a capital improvement budget to council yet.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of goes back to the one on Beaumont Ave and Oak Valley. We were supposed to add a
left turn.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that on hold because of capital improvement?
It's included in the capital improvement budget, but until we actually present that and council adopts it, it's not a project that we can start right now. We have a whole list of wants for the capital improvement budget, but it's difficult to present that until we get a handle on how much money we actually have and where that money is outside of the general fund.
Okay.
It can be funded with gas tax money, and we know that there are some gas tax funds in the fund balance, yes. So we know there's some money there, but we want to be sure of what that amount truly is, and that is where you close out your audit and you get a good fund balance number to start with so that you know how much is actually available for that.
And how far we are?
That all ties to closing the books and
At the end of the year? So we won't decide, or we won't have an opportunity to discuss about the light signal until the end of the year?
Well, I mean, if it's an urgent matter and council says, let's look at taking it out of fund balance, you run the risk of overdrawing the fund. So it's a choice you have to make.
No, and that's why I'm asking, because in order for me to lobby for that, to my council, I got to see where we're at on here, and that's why I was asking to better understand what we're able to, I'm going to say play with, but to be able to manage with, and to see if that's a urgency.
And like I said, we have a whole list of wants and needs in the draft, but that draft is not ready to be presented to council or the public for a workshop session. Normally it's done with the budget, which we're hoping we can do for this coming budget. I have a budget timeline that I'll go through under city manager reports, so you know when that portion comes. But it's all contingent on the audit and closing the books for 15 in order to determine how much is in the fund balance.
Okay. So we're talking about 2015 budget.
17.
right? We're talking about closing the books on 15.
15.
And the audit for 15 for the 16-17 budget.
Okay.
It's so you know where you stand. That's what Councilmember Condon was asking about, is once you close the books, then you know how much is actually sitting within each fund, and then you can make decisions from there.
You budget with that money.
Then you, right. We kind of did it in the dark through the budget process because we needed to get the budget done, and we didn't know where the beginning balances really stood, which is why we didn't do any capital projects, because that's the best thing, is don't do capital and just budget your operating until you know a good figure for your fund balance.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question about the workman's comp and the JPA. Because that's a chunk of money there that we're...
Yes, so...
How long do you think it will take to find a JPA that we can get involved with? Cut that expense?
Carrie is working on it right now. As you recall, PACES was dissolved, and that was the JPA that we were members of for, I think, at least a decade, if not longer. But I think what Onyx is speaking to, well, I know what Onyx is speaking to, is even as part of a JPA, we are self-insured, and we still need to have a good, large pot of money set aside for both our general liability and our workers' comp in case we take a hit. That is one of the biggest concerns I have right now, is that, you know, we've always talked about going bare on insurance. Well, we are bare. We couldn't afford a major hit right now. So it's something that we're working with our consultants on through the workout plan to sustainability. And we definitely need to look at any excess in the budget and put that away, in addition to filling the $8 to $10 million deficit that we have. So joining a JPA, it will only give us the excess insurance, but it's not going to help with the self-insurance retention.
Thank you. That was very helpful. And Onyx, you've been a delight and an asset to us. And I want to thank you for being here and being with us. And you've done so much for us. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Onyx, we'll try to get through my questions really quickly here. On the lease vehicle, that's strictly for the lease vehicles, and then we have set aside $25,000 to do the retrofits to the vehicles to make them police cars, correct?
Yes, correct.
And that's set aside in the budget already, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Just so that I can have a better understanding, on the Exhibit 2 LAIF, the interest, we show that we have interest gain. It looks like $3,000. That doesn't go back into the LAIF? It gets distributed, or?
Correct. Yes, the funds stay in the account, but you record the revenue.
Oh, right.
And the way we record the revenue, not that it's a large amount, but when you have large cities and they have, like, you know, a huge amount of interest, every fund that has a cash balance should get a portion of the interest based on their average cash balance. So some of the funds that we have here that have cash are sewer, transit, and they require their interest.
Okay.
RCTC requires that we credit them for the proper interest, not even allocation. Whatever the balance is that we hold for transit, they impute that interest. And so all the other funds, we have some special revenue funds, pay, COPS, where we get the money up front. So based on that balance, a portion of that $3,000, so it's this huge journal entry for $3,000, but it's nevertheless, it's the same process whether you get $3,000 or $300,000. It has to get allocated among all the funds. So you won't see that revenue show up just in the general fund.
Okay.
It actually shows up little pieces in all the different funds that have cash.
Okay. Thank you. Looking at the street light assessment, that seems to be awful low for mid-year. Is there going to be a large increase somewhere down the road?
Correct.
like
So,
sales
correct.
tax?
Street light assessment is actually a part of the property taxes. And yes, and that's one that I compared last year where we were to this year, and we're actually slightly ahead, and the large portion, almost $350,000 last year, came in from January through June, and we anticipate the same amount coming in this year.
Okay. And then just kind of looking through Exhibit 5, we're looking at like the health and fitness, across-the-board reimbursements.
Correct.
Uniforms. Those are all been agreed to, kind of, some of them are going to be modified and reduced based on the MOUs we just approved, correct?
Correct. So there were some units that receive uniform allowance that won't get that anymore. Now, there's some units like police, they will still continue that. But those type of expenditures with the MOU, the reimbursements, et cetera, we're going to have one more payment on the reimbursements, and then that's it for the rest of the year. No more reimbursements based on the new MOU terms.
Okay. And then on transit, the equipment maintenance and repairs, are there any concerns with that line item? I think that's in Exhibit 6.
Correct. I saw the percentage was high. I mean, the total amount isn't high, but the percentage is high.
Right.
Transit felt like that was fine. We were okay.
Okay.
But it's a small enough item where if something came up, because, you know, with repairs, you never know. But if something did come up, then, and that's not for the buses, that's just repairs at the building. So, you know, it's not anticipated you're going to have a whole lot. But if something did come up, the staff does have the ability to just request a budget transfer within their department and get it approved by the city manager if needed. You know, hey, this urgent matter came up, we need money, and we have it in office supplies. We just want to move it from office supplies to the repairs. But it's a small enough budget that you could do that if you needed to. But that is just for the building. It's not for the buses. That's under vehicle maintenance.
Okay. And Onyx, I just appreciate the way that you're able to explain things so that I can understand them and make sense to them and get my clarifications. So thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
That.
Just one final thing I also want to reiterate, because there was a question in the last meeting. So the numbers that are reflected here have now been uploaded to the transparency portal, the general ledger detail. It's updated, it's current. Just know every month cities usually take 30 to 45 days to close their books. So when we close our books 45 days later, we'll have to do an update to the transparency portal so that the numbers, the final numbers, are out there. It'll be a process where if it needs to be updated right away, it'll be in draft. And then it'll be final later. And likewise, this one now says final, and it's for July through December, and it ties to this, and it matches, and all the journal entries have been booked, et cetera. Accruals have been made, et cetera. We've closed the books. And that may be what you heard too, Lloyd. We did close the books. We closed the books through December. We didn't finish the bank reconciliations, but we did close the books. Obviously, if there's entries that need to be booked from now on, they're going to be booked in January, February, and then once we close the books, no more going back and forth. Once we're done, so that if we reran a report, it would still tie, and we'll book all other entries that are identified in January, February, until we close that quarter.
Thank you.
I believe Mayor Pro Tem White still had a couple questions.
Yeah, just a couple minutes. I'd like your response to Councilmember Condon's question. Was basically good news. I mean, you basically didn't make any promises, but said that we're on track. We had a considerable savings from the Wildermuth project, and we still have a contingency fund, correct? Correct. And what was the balance of that?
And that's in your staff report as well. It's $297.
Okay. I'd like to take this opportunity to reintroduce a suggestion that I made when we passed the budget and when we canceled all of the concerts and the 4th of July celebration. I would like, Bob, you had talked about the dollar amounts of just doing the fireworks, and I'd like to revisit the idea of bringing back the fireworks with a community celebration, community picnic, 4th of July type picnic. And my ideas are, we have a lot of organizations. We have 2 tonight that have come to us and are coming to us to ask us to help with their projects. And I think to have the Rotary Cherry Valley Festival, come and present, do a barbecue, present some desserts, an old-fashioned 4th of July celebration. For music, we could have the school district bring in their bands, the high school band, the junior high bands, and we could have a market night of only local businesses, not just anyone who wants to come, but keep it focused to just a local business. And I hope that we could consider something like that in a future council meeting.
And I anticipated that coming up, so I asked Bob to run some numbers. For a 12-minute fireworks show, it's $12,000. 2 small bands would be $10,000. Porta potties and miscellaneous costs for a total of $23,100. That doesn't include staff costs. We are certainly going to work with the local service clubs, but I just wanted to let you know that those are some rough numbers that we've been putting together.
Are those bands local bands?
No, those numbers are not.
Okay, because I know we have a number of local bands, kids in bands, and bringing in the high school band, we could cut $10,000 out of that. But I just wanted to put that back on the table and consider it for a future agenda item.
And just for clarification on Wildermuth, that was in the sewer fund, so.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
so no savings in the general fund, sorry.
That's okay.
It's a good idea. I like it. Do we have any other questions from council at this time? Do we have anybody for public comment?
Yes, we do. We have one speaker.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open up public comment at we'll call it 7:54.
Ron Roy.
Thank you, Council. I'll try and be brief here, and I appreciate it very much, and a tremendous amount of hard work. I'm just being a fan. You guys have done unbelievable work here. I don't even know what to say. I mean, mind-boggling. You've identified all the codes for all the accounts, and nobody's going to expect you to have this all fixed all at once, but with that, I do appreciate it. I'm going to focus on a couple of things. One is obviously the CFDs. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about the CFDs, the $3.8 million, and then you have what looks like a balance of $20 million. I know that I would call them worksheets, like here's expense status for risk. I don't know what the accounting phrase is if it's for a worksheet. I'd call it a worksheet. It would be nice for CFDs if we could have a separate, I'll call it a worksheet or schedule that shows what, and appreciate that Ms. Onyx said that they might be able to identify by each improvement area. Where we are in Fairway Canyon, we're worried about the bonds that we paid for public facilities. We've been expecting parks, and we've been expecting libraries, we've been expecting schools, so I don't think the other parts of Beaumont would object. I think they'd probably feel in the same way. If they can break it down by an improvement area, that'd be great, and maybe a separate schedule seeing what it's going for. Also, if there's unissued bonds that it's kind of, I call it in potentia, where you have a bond that is authorized for issuance for a project, it'd be great if we could allocate it for the use. Like again, we want a school, and we want parks, and we want libraries, so maybe if there was a bond that was in potentia that's not been issued, that if we could see that, and we understand that you have to budget that in. So the other one is is a pet thing. I was just doing some math here. It looks like you have over $3 million in contract services before you get to the big ticket items like sewer and police. Well, you ended up at almost $10 million in contract services. I think what got the regime change was this tremendous dominance by contract services. If there's any way that could be broken down and itemized as well. I personally have a personal project I've submitted to the city manager. I think that some of these contract services should be taken out of contract and become city departments with city staff. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit later. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Yeah.
Do we have any other speakers, Nicole?
No other speakers.
Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and close public comment on this item at 7:56.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution 2016-11.
I'll second that motion.
Appropriating the budget adjustments for the municipal budget fiscal year 15-16.
Okay, so I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem White to adopt resolution number 2016-11. 10-11, appropriating budget adjustments for the municipal budget fiscal year 2015-2016, and seconded by Councilmember Orozco. Roll call. Mayor Lara?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Councilmember Condon?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
And Councilmember Orozco?
Aye.
Approved with a unanimous vote.
Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break before we start item 4B. Thank you. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order at 8:05. Brings us to item 4B, request for waiver of staff costs for breezing through Beaumont, 5K, 10K race. We have staff report.
She's not back yet.
Oh.
We'll all watch her come in.
How you doing, Chief?
Doing good this evening, thank you. So, Mayor, Council, just before you, the Rotary Club has the last year taken over the Breezing Through Beaumont. It was a city event, but for sustainability purposes, we reached out to service clubs to take it over. Rotary did, but they can't do it alone, so they requested some assistance. It's obviously a great event, falls in line with the city's healthy city initiatives, and promotes fitness and community unity. And so their request was to waive staff costs. If council was to approve that, the police department staff costs are the greatest, but there is room in the overtime budget of the police department to absorb that, so I could do that this year. However, for community services and transit, there is not room in their budget, and so if you were to approve this request, you would have to approve one of the two options of moving $1,720.09 from either choice 2 or 3. And I believe there's a speaker from Rotary here to request from council.
And I just want to clarify that the transit and maintenance services are restricted funds, and those can't be waived.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Chief.
Welcome. Member Rotary.
His name is Martin, right? His name is Martin, right?
Good evening, Council. I'd like to first thank Dr. Condon for joining the Council and dedicating her time and effort for the citizens of Beaumont. We appreciate you taking the initiative. And Council, we thank you for all that you've done for us in the past year. It's been a really tough year for what we see from this side of the table. And we thank you for your efforts, and staff as well. The Rotary Club did take on the challenge of promoting the Breezing Through Beaumont last year. We had a very successful event. We were able to fund many activities through the year for the community, including the Celebrate Reading in the Arts, the Cherish Jubilee for scholarships for high school students, the Thanksgiving dinner, and many other projects that our Interact Club and our Early Act clubs participate in throughout the year. So this event not only highlights what the city does and what progress we've made here and how we promote health and fitness in a city that has a great backdrop for the event and a great environment to hold the event. We are able to put a positive spin on service clubs and on giving locally and doing locally. We bring people in as far away as Canada to the race and bring a lot of publicity to the little local community here. Are there any questions I can entertain for the council?
Questions for Mr. Bright?
I just have one question,
Yes, sir.
if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Brosco.
Because I know you guys do sponsorships, right? Sponsors that sponsored the race?
Yes, we do get sponsors for the race. We had a name sponsor last year. We don't have one yet this year, but we will be looking for name sponsors. We also named the City of Beaumont as a co-sponsor last year for your generous waiving of the fees to partner with us to put this event on.
If I can ask, how much do you guys bring in as for sponsorships? Including or not including the city's contribution?
I don't have the exact number. We did bring in the neighborhood of $4,000 or $5,000 last year.
Okay. That was it.
Good. Mayor Pro Tem White?
Real quick, the Breezing Through Beaumont, you guys also do the Spirit Run, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
The Spirit Run is a totally different funded program that the funds for that event go to the local school districts
for grants that the individual teachers and schools put together for those funds, and then they're dispersed. And last year, we were able to disperse $10,000 to the local schools, and that created all the income for that was created to go to those grants with very small stipend to cover administrative things.
No, I understand, and I think they're both great events. And my question to you was, are these two events, or maybe this one, since it's different from the way the Spirit Run is as far as the usage of the money, are these a pretty good portion of your fundraising for the year?
It is the major fundraiser for the year for our group. We have very small fundraisers that are not of significant value compared to this event.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Any questions from council?
We thank you for your continued support. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bright. Appreciate that.
I would like to make a motion.
Do we need public comment? Do we have any speakers for public comment?
We do not. We just
do
need
not.
to open and close it.
So what I will do is I will open and close public comment at 8:10 and entertain Mr. Roscoe's motion.
Yeah. Making sure I'm making it. To approve the fee waiver of the staff costs for the city personnel and vehicle equipment used to support the Beaumont race, and, if I'm correct, to approve the city contingency fund budget to transfer $1,720.09.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve fee waiver of staff costs for city personnel and vehicle equipment used to support the Breezing Through Beaumont race, and approve city council contingency fund budget transfer of $1,720.09. Motion by Orozco, second by Condon. Roll call. Mayor Lara.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
Yes.
Councilmember Condon.
Yes.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
And Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Approved by unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 4C, staff report.
So I didn't travel too far. And so unlike Breezing, that's a relatively new program to the city, Cherry Festival's been around for nearly a century. It's in its 98th year, draws about 45,000 people in attendance to Beaumont and Stewart Park. And so in order for them to make this event possible, in years past they asked for us to waive staff costs. They're not asking for that anymore. They're going to approach council to ask for a waiver of facility use fees, which would include Stewart Park, the pavilion, the lights, and the City Hall gymnasium for the pancake breakfast. Those fees would total $2,206, and they have agreed to pay for all staff overtime and personnel costs. And then there's a member from the Cherry Festival Association here to speak to council.
Council, Mayor, over the past years, we've both been involved in the Cherry Festival for about 24 years. I've been president for about 20 of those years. We do have a plaque for your participation as a sponsor last year. You're not an in-kind sponsor. You give us no money, and we put this event on each year, but you do save us a lot of cost of the grounds and everything else. So I'd like to present this plaque to the council for our appreciation.
Do you want a picture?
Yeah, let's do that.
With what? My phone?
If you want to go up. And then, do you want to?
Thank you.
Why don't you come over here over here? Thank you so much. One on each side, or?
Sure, we'll do that.
No. Oops.
Thank you very much.
Did these photos get posted? I never see them.
I'm going to put it on my Facebook, right?
Because I never see them after. I always look for them afterwards.
We had a Facebook glitch that we fixed today.
Okay.
We'd also like to thank the council for all the work that city employees do during the time to help us out during the parade and everything else. Over the years, the Cherry Festival donated back to the city in many ways, giving back money for the kitchen equipment, the CRC, fencing the park, the Polaris off-road vehicle we gave to the police department. The Cherry Festival gives back to the community as much as we can. We have our local groups such as Kiwanis, Rotary, Lions, Seroptimus, American Legion. They all help us on the gates and things, but we do pay them for their assistance, so the money they raise off the Cherry Festival goes back to the community. A lot of scholarship money has come from the Cherry Festival Association to these groups, and we also provide several scholarships ourselves. We, there's 21 members, directors, that we do all the work, get it going, and a lot of people think, well, it's a city project, and it's really not, but we're in cahoots with the city a lot. We try to put on the best event we can, get the community involved. People come from all over the area. A lot of the kids that have grown up here in town, moved out of town, they'll come back for the Cherry Festival with their families. This is a gathering point. The biggest event each year in the city of Beaumont. I'd like your support in keeping this going, and any assistance you can help us with, we really appreciate it. And I'd like to see it go for many, many more years. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the Cherry Festival.
Thank you for your dedication as well. Do we have any council members with questions?
I have a question, two questions.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Probably for Chief. This is the first year that we're being asked this kind of waiver. In the past, what did it cost us before when we were granting all the waivers?
And so I can only speak on the police department costs. We were basically trading, if you will, about $20,000 in overtime for about $20,000 in equipment or purchases for the city.
Okay. Okay. And then this is more a question for you, Mr. Pinckney. My son's a member of the Cub Scouts, and one of our biggest fundraisers every year is picking up garbage at the Cherry Festival. Do I need to recuse myself on this? Because I was out there picking up garbage the last 2 years, so.
Good fine
Boy
job.
Scout troop uses the Cherry Festival as
A fundraiser, because they clean up the garbage and they get paid in
I'm sorry, I don't think so. I don't think it's a conflict that doesn't have a financial impact on you or your household.
Okay,
It has a financial impact on an organization that he's a member of.
Okay.
But, if you feel concerned about it, you're always welcome to recuse yourself if you are concerned about any appearance of impropriety.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, comments from council?
No.
No?
Public comment?
Do we have
No
any?
public comment.
No public comment?
In that case, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open and close public comment at 8:19.
I'll second.
Yeah, oh well. Okay, yeah, I was going to make a motion to approve the fee waiver. I know, I'm trying to move this along.
I seconded that.
I have a motion to approve fee waiver of facility use fees in the amount of $2,206 to support the Cherry Festival Association. Motion by Roscoe, second by Knight. Roll call. Mayor Lara.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
Yes.
Councilmember Condon.
Yes.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
And Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Approved by a unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 4D, tentative track map 36783, Fairway Canyon, PA 21A.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The proposed project entails implementing actions towards the development of the Oak Valley PGA specific plan, which was adopted in 2001 by Riverside County Board of Supervisors when the specific plan area was still in the county, an incorporated area. The specific plan area was annexed into the city in 2002-2003. The subject portion, Planning Area 21A, of the specific plan is located west of Trevino Trail and north of Palmer Avenue. The zoning for the property is specific plan area. Tentative tract map 36783 proposes 53 single-family residential lots, which is permitted by the specific plan. The lot was originally designated as a school site. However, the location does not meet the criteria of the school district. The school district and the developer are working together to locate an alternative site. The underlying zoning for the school site is residential single-family. The largest residential lot proposed is 16,330 square feet. The smallest is 5,500 square feet, and the average residential lot will be 8,024. Additionally, there is a water quality basin and public streets within the 13.73 acres of this site. If approved, the applicant will be required to submit a minor plot plan for any proposed residential product and will be required to provide four-sided architecture for all buildings with enhancements and provide for trim around all openings. With regards to the project landscaping, under this proposal, the applicant will be required to adhere to the standards set forth under the Guide to California-Friendly Landscaping, as well as the city's newly adopted landscape ordinance that does require water-efficient landscaping. Separate landscape plans will be required as part of the conditions of approval by the applicant for staff review of all front yards, slopes, and open space area. The setbacks. In terms of setbacks, the minimum setback allowed per the specific plan are 10 feet for front yard setback for living or porch areas, 20 feet for garage areas to allow for cars to park in front, 15 feet for rear yards, and 5 feet for interior side yards, and 10 feet for corner yards. The Planning Commission did recommend approval to the City Council, who has final authority over subdivision maps. This parcel is located within the specific plan, and an EIR does exist and was prepared and certified in 2001 for the specific plan. An addendum, the most recent addendum was done in 2014, approved by City Council. Additionally, this project does have a development agreement, and it meets all of the requirements of the specific plan, and therefore that development agreement as well. There are findings listed in the staff report for council to review and approve as part of this motion. The financial impact was reviewed during the specific plan annexation process. It goes through a full plan of services when it does get annexed. Additionally, the development will have to pay their required mitigation fees. And our recommendation is to hold a public hearing and approve tentative tract map 36783 with the attached conditions of approval. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Mayor.
Councilmember Orozco.
Okay. Now, would it be possible to hear from the public, or we can just ask some technical questions, or?
If you want to ask your technical questions now, and then we'll open up to public comment.
Okay. So a couple questions. So this area was incorporated into our general plan for the city overall. It was first part of the county's general plan?
That's correct. It was originally adopted in the county. When we annexed this entire area, Fairway Canyon and Tournament Hills, it became part of the city when we annexed it.
So the proposed school site location was in that plan, and then when it came into part of the city's plan, it became our plan?
Yes, the site is shown on the specific plan that we adopted as part of the annexation.
Okay. So the original location, that was a proposed school that was going to be given from the developer to the school district?
It's the process isn't given. They purchase it.
Purchase it, yes.
That's why they pay their school impact fees. So it still ends up being up to the school district whether or not they want to purchase the land or not. So in this case, it doesn't meet their requirements. Currently, the school requires at least 2 roads to be adjacent to the site. They've kind of told me they've learned their lesson on that and don't want a single road going to the school due to the traffic issues. So it's something that they're exploring other areas within the specific plan, and we're working very closely with the landowner to locate an alternate site within Fairway Canyon.
Okay. Now, I had the opportunity to go on Saturday morning early to some residents out in Fairway Canyon, not that far from there, and speak to a handful of people with questions, because I'm sure this has been a big issue at the Planning Commission. And some of the questions in regards that I have is the fact that the school district is not accepting this because they just doesn't fit into their plan. And I understand that because I was on the school board when we did the master plan on there, and that's just Tournament Hills is just an example of that. But have they decided on? I know on here it said area 25. Is area 25 in the area?
It's in Fairway Canyon. Planning Area 25 is part of this specific plan. It's to the south of this. I don't have an overall map to provide. Let me pull out.
And then I'll keep on.
So I don't know if you can see this. This is Fairway Canyon.
We need an Elmo.
This is where the site is. This is Planning Area 25. So it's down Tuckwick Canyon Parkway. Past where it ends right now.
Now, that's just a proposed. It's nothing in writing. Because where I'm going with this is that I'm going to have a little concern because we're already going to be allowing them to approve. Part of our job is to oversee making sure that our community gets what's entitled in terms of what's in the master plan. And now that there's going to be a change in that master plan, when individuals bought their home there, now it's been changed. And so if there's nothing in writing in terms of the developer giving another location, that's not in writing, because it says here it's still discussing, still talked about.
Correct. An exact site, that area is not mapped yet, so there's it's kind of a nebulous area. It's just an area of land that allows for 517 units, so there's lots of room in there to mix. There's no streets mapped out in that area yet, so there would be no agreement because there's no lot yet.
Okay. So now, I know part of your job here is planning. What happens if that other location doesn't happen, and we allow this to happen, and then we're kind of minimized on putting a school in that location, or in that area?
Yes, you might want to speak. The school district is here to answer their questions in their planning. It is my understanding that the school district also goes beyond our city boundaries, so there's other areas within this project landowner's responsibility that might be also available that is not necessarily in the city, but within the school district area.
Okay. Can you clarify on that? Do you mean the neighboring county, which is Calamasa?
Correct. The school district boundary goes into Calamasa, if I'm correct. I'm trying to remember the map from last week. And so there's a neighboring project that kind of connects with this one that actually was one full specific plan in the county, got split in half. Some of it came to the city, some of it came to Calamasa. If for some reason something wasn't able to be worked out in Planning Area 25, there are other areas that they could negotiate and work with.
Okay, I'm going to kind of finish up here.
You got one more question, because I can come back to you.
Well, okay, just a comment that can soak in your guys' head while,
Okay.
the fact that, again, it deviates from the master plan. I'm trying to get some answers in terms where I'm going to go in terms of I would rather have something in writing that the district has, guaranteeing that they have something in the area before we allow this.
All I can say is the school district doesn't want to buy it, so they have a right to process it for the underlying zoning, and that's...
Thank you. Councilmember Knight, do you have any comments?
No, I'm good.
Councilmember Condon?
I was involved in a situation very similar to this in the city of Stockton, and it ended up that the school district ended up without a school site. And you go back 5 years and you try to reconstruct something, and it's often very difficult to do. And this is purely meant in the protection of the school district, and I know that the developer has good intentions, and so does the school district, but I feel much better with language than good intentions. I think there are honest and good intentions on everyone's part, but I would like to see us give a 5-0 vote on this affirmative, but I would be very reticent to do that without an absolute statement in the document that that school site will be provided. I know it says they are working out a school site, but that is pretty soft, flimsy language.
You may want to speak with the applicant. They may be willing to put that will be provided. It's a matter of whether the school district wants the site is the other issue, that it's a two-way discussion between the school district and the landowner. So, but they're both here to speak to you.
They need our approval, though.
Yes.
Because we look over for the community and the citizens, so it does. But I'm just saying.
Okay.
You good? Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes, Ms. Dibbing. This is not like the final track maps where if we didn't approve it, we had a lot of problems. Is that correct?
Yes and no. There is a development agreement associated with this. I provided you a letter that was provided to me from the applicants. There is a development agreement that gives them the right to develop this per the specific plan, and the underlying zoning on this site, if the school does not want it, is specific plan. So in order to deny it, you have to have findings that state that this isn't within the requirements of the EIR or specific plan.
Okay, and does the, because I'm concerned also about the school, is that an issue that is in the plan, that this would not be adhering to the plan?
I have not found anything in my review that this proposal does not adhere to the specific plan or the development agreement.
Okay. Changing a site that was a school into a site that's 53 homes, are there any new will serve letters that are necessary on that? I don't know if you're going to know the answer to that.
Yes, they'll need to get will serve letters. However, the Water District has worked with this applicant, and they've ran into issues under other sites because this is not a developer, this is a landowner, and they sell to developers. And the Water District will serve letters are only good for 1 year. So it runs into an issue in a year because this project will not be ready to build in 1 year. So I can assure you that obviously this project can't be built without a water agreement, because you can't lay the pipes in the street without that plan approved through the Water District and an agreement to come to. But at this point, in order for them to entitle it and sell it to a developer, it's a little premature from what I understand from the Water District to get a will serve letter.
And I think what you're saying is right, but here's my concern. For the first time in my attending Water District meetings, at the last Water District meeting, they actually turned down, at least temporarily postpone the approval of a will serve letter extension. And what has been happening, or I've seen happening, is that the property owner, developer, I'm not sure which is the right term, will come to us and say that they want to do a project, and then they'll pay fees, and then they'll go over to the Water District and say, well, we're under your exclusion for the will serve letter because we paid fees to the city. And until the city and the Water District sort of work together, I think it's important that we sort of maintain some kind of continuity there. So that's why I bring that up. And my understanding was, as you explained it, that the will serve letter is a formality for this one because the homes were a part of the original will serve letter.
Correct, and the landowner who's processing this application is fully aware of the risks of going through this and paying their fees and possibly not getting a will serve letter.
Okay. Is this part of an existing CFD area, a new CFD area?
This would not have a current CFD area as it was a school before.
Okay.
I can't really answer much on CFDs as I'm not a CFD expert, but I can't see how since it was supposed to be a school, there wouldn't have been a CFD formed on this little area. Around it, yes.
Okay.
But not these lots.
Whether or not Melrose fees are being charged to these homes, you can't say yay or nay right now.
Correct. The applicant would probably have a better understanding of their plans.
Okay. And I'm okay if that's the answer. Item 1.4 talks about, you mentioned this wouldn't be built in a year, but item 1.4 talks about agreement contrary to thereto, this conditionally approved tenant map will expire 2 years after the original approval date. Is that the date that we're approving it tonight?
That's a standard condition, that track maps are good for 2 years, plus it's based on the Subdivision Map Act. They're good for 2 years, plus they allow up to 6 additional one-year extensions. However, as stated, this does have a development agreement, so the map would automatically be extended through the life of the development agreement.
Okay.
What is the original approval date?
If this is approved, it'll be tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
And one last thing, I don't know if this is for you, for the developer, or the landowner, or for the planning department. Can you tell me if all the other homes surrounding that have 5-foot side yards? Is that a standard within those?
It is a standard setback within the specific plan. I cannot tell you whether that builder chose to do all of them at 5 or not.
Because that is way too close.
5 is...
I can't even lie down on the side yard.
5 feet is the standard within our residential single-family zone within not specific plan areas, and it is the setback for side yards for almost all specific plans as well.
Okay, because our house, we bought our house because it had a 12-foot side yard, which means you have 24 feet between the two homes. And here we're sitting with 10 feet between the two homes, and that's...
Even some of ours that have minimum... A certain area of 20,000 square feet still have a minimum of 5. They just don't use it. They don't push the house to one side. They put it in the middle.
That's disappointing. That's all I had. Thank you.
So you're saying that if we approve this tonight, the water district is okay? They've been working with the district as far as will serve letters go?
I can't say the water district is okay, as I have nothing in writing towards this project. We do route out the map to the water district, and I receive no comments or concerns or conditions on this project, which usually implies from most agencies that they have no issues. But without a will serve letter, I don't have anything on paper from them.
Okay. The lot sizes, are those consistent with the other lots within the area? Because they seem small to me.
It is consistent with the minimum lot size within the specific plan.
And then just for clarification purposes, the EIR did take this property into consideration when it was approved back in 2014, correct?
That's correct. Because it is located within the specific plan, this acreage, this lot is included. They are not permitted to go over the total number of dwelling units within the specific plan, which is what the EIR takes into account. And they are not going over the total number of dwelling units within the EIR. When you guys approved last year planning area 14, it was reduced by, I think, 74 lots. So that's kind of where that transfer takes place, so it doesn't go over the total maximum units allowed in the specific plan or EIR.
Okay. And then when you're referring to the other areas for a potential school, those are currently unmapped, which means that we can hopefully kind of make that a criteria as a part of the improvement of a tract development. Is that correct?
You will see that tract map when it comes forward. That's correct.
Okay, so we'll have a shot at it at that time.
You'll be able to look at where the school is laid out when that tract map comes forward.
Okay, and I know that we have somebody from the school district here. Do we have any questions for you?
I'd also like to have a question for the owner.
I wanted chime in sometime.
Mayor, can we start with the applicant?
I'm sorry?
Can we start with the applicant first?
Sure.
That normally comes after the staff report.
Rebecca?
No, I do for, no, not for Rebecca.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, Cheryl Thompson, Argent Management for SDC Fairway Canyon. You have a question?
I do, Mayor.
Oh, thank you.
Councilmember Knight?
How long have you had a development agreement in place here?
2001, I think.
So it's been many years?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And so as Mr. Pinckney, as the owner of this development agreement in this property, they have the right to do this.
We have to honor whatever our obligations are that we agreed to under the development agreement.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, it falls the same as the PA 14.
That's always been my understanding. That
correct. That is correct.
Yes, because I know there were some questions up here that
because it does fall into the criteria and the allowable for under the development agreement, the specific plan. Yes, correct.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
And, you know, I want to address my conversations with the Water Department. I've had lengthy discussions with the Water Department. They would have issued our will serve letter. However, it's only good for a year. And when I explained to him that we had not started our improvement plan development, and by the time we do the development of the improvement plans and put them into plan check, we're probably about 6 to 8 months out to get that approval, which means that really wouldn't give enough time to get the infrastructure in to the in-tract to get to that 1 year. Then the 1 year would be then they have to go back for an extension. They don't like to do extensions. They really prefer that we wait until we're a little bit closer, until we really need it. He did explain to me that this particular site does fall into the urban water management program, and it falls under the will serve for the entire project when it was originally done. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but along this edge right here, all of the infrastructure water is already in, including the laterals. It's already installed. The only thing that is not installed is going to be in these individual streets. But the backbone water for this is already installed.
Okay.
So I hope that helps understand.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Understanding the concerns that three of us have up here about the school district and some kind of language in there that would make it easier for us to accept this, is that something that you would...
Absolutely. I don't know any reason why we couldn't add a condition. I mean, it's the only thing is we can offer the school site, but they have to accept it.
Surely.
We certainly would be fine with a condition that would say we would offer a site for the school. We took the school board around last week, and we drove the entire project, and we drove up there to PA 25, and we did more than that. We walked it. So we got up there and walked up on that project, and it really is very close. And I understand you live off of Champions, correct? Okay, so if you come down Champions to Tuckwit, and you go towards the new development, as soon as you get past that golf course that you can kind of see on both sides,
Left-hand side, yeah.
just directly to your left, that's the piece that they're looking at. And I think that that's the one that they seem to be most interested at this point. It would be the closest, the closest to the development that's going on now.
Can I? Okay,
one second.
I'm done.
Councilmember Orozco?
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. One of the issues that we had with Tournament Hills, this is before when I bought my home, excited that it was going to move there, and knowing that there was going to be an elementary school there. One of the things that the city did is allowed the developer, their party, to build additional homes in the back when the agreement was, because I went back when I was on the school board and I kind of saw the original master plan for that school site, and it was supposed to be a street behind it, that secondary access. That never happened. The developer came back and requested to build more homes, and now you have a reflection of what happened there when a city doesn't do its due diligence in protecting the citizens and the homeowners and the community that they invested in. And that's where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
And so I would feel more comfortable with, before we approve something here, to have that language in there, to at least to see where the district, because part of it, and this is kind of the discussion to the collaborative agency meeting, when I was on there as a school board member, I try to get that information to the city saying, hey, this is what we're looking at, what we're doing, and that's where the discussion occurs. But then coming to the council and working directly with the school district on saying, okay, we want to be a part of that master plan because it's part of community development. We're doing that here, and I have nothing against developers. It's just we want to make sure that that vision that people have moved into this community have invested are getting what they've...
Yeah, we would be fine accepting a condition to add this to the school. Now, just so you know, I have a pretty close relationship with the school. We've been in a lot of conversations with that exact issue with the two streets. And so I think it's kind of exciting with this particular site because the school district is involved, the city council, you already know what this is. We've even talked about sitting down with the school district to do that planning on that site and not just put a school on a piece that's there, but to really kind of focus through that, because I know that their needs are, they need to have two streets coming out onto that, and how they would want that laid out, we would be more than willing to work with them.
That's why I was kind of surprised about the fact that if this was going to be a proposed school site, how those houses even got there in the first place. That should have been planned. I mean, I remember when I was on the school board, this was talked about eons ago, but then, I'm not saying you, because I don't know if it's before your time or after.
Before my time.
But those houses
it's not a
there.
good site as it sits for a school.
Should never have been built there. And this is where I need to be here protecting the citizens of not just this community, but, I mean, not that area, but the whole entire community. So,
so we are working with them, and that the particular site, PA 25, is 50 acres. So there's plenty of room on there to split it or to do what needs to be done in order to facilitate what the district needs.
So the only entrance to that new school, that proposed school site, would be Tuckaway.
Unless there were some streets put internal that would give some parking and pull out some of that traffic. But as it sits right now, Tuckwood is the only street that is adjacent to PA 25.
And just by when I had figured that out now, I mean, now that's a huge issue, because now if you have one entrance to that school, I mean, if you go to Mesa View, I know one of our council members has a child at Mesa View, there's no homes being built there yet, but still, there's only one access to that school site. And I mean, if it's 25 that you're going to be proposing to the school district, I'm pretty sure that they're not going to want access to that.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. So, can you talk to it? Can you speak to it?
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, because, we really have been in a lot of discussions about it, so that we don't create, we want to make sure that the Tournament Hill School is not recreated.
Okay.
And we really are, we're partners with that too. We really do believe that needs to be a different situation than that, because that's right down the street from our community too. So we understand that probably is not the best situation. So.
And
we have another question from council member.
I eventually do want to have more questions, but for the school district. So.
Yes.
And if we get a chance, maybe I want to hear some of the comments of the community members that speak. So.
Councilmember Condon?
I hear a real intent to carry on a collaborative process here, and it looks like you're moving it forward. I think this could all be resolved by, instead of saying that the developer will be working with the school district, just say the developer shall work with the school district, and I think that one word "shall" will resolve any concerns I would have.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Have any questions? No, that's perfect. Can we get the member from the school district?
Thank you.
Mayor, may I make a comment while they're changing?
Yes, sir.
I just want to respond to the Mesa View. Mesa View has one way in, but the way they've designed the school and the parking lot, there's 3 drop-off lanes, and you wouldn't believe how smooth it is. You can get in even when it's extremely busy. You're in and out in 5-10 minutes at most, and it's extremely safe the way they've designed it. So I think with one way in, and I live in Brooks, I've been going to Brookside for
there's no houses there.
7 or 8 years now. I'm just saying that there's one way in at Brookside, but the parking lot, the design of the school was designed for school buses, and when the school district stopped using school buses, it wasn't designed for the heavy traffic of pickup and drop-off. So I'm just saying, if you plan your school to a point like what Mesa View has done, where you have a process that goes through, you're not doing what Brookside now is, closing the parking lot after school and making everyone park across the street in the district office. So I agree with you. I've seen what has happened at Tournament Hills, and Brookside has been a big problem as well. And I think with some planning, you can avoid that.
It would be nice if all schools functioned that way. My name is June Lindsay. I am an employee at the Beaumont Unified School District. I'm currently serving in the Business Services Department. I'm the Director of Facilities and Planning there. First, I wanted to say that my understanding is Beaumont Unified School District has had a long relationship with the City of Beaumont, and it extends long before I got here. I've been with the district a year and a half, and so a lot of these things that you're talking about, I'm experiencing them as a kind of a new person that's coming on board. We, from my understanding, working with Rebecca, I've been working with her and with Kyle, and also work with your building and safety and Keith. So it's been very fun working with your staff. They've all been very good, and I love building the relationships here and having the two entities work together. I come from an architect firm working for school districts for 14 years, and it wasn't often that we saw districts and cities working together. So this has been a refreshing relationship, and I'm just excited to be able to build on that. So first off, I wanted to say a couple things, if I may. I wanted to talk a little bit about, as I went into work this morning, one of the things that I was hit with by some district staff was a publication that went out by a gentleman stating that there was a petition out there in regards to the community, and I'm not sure, Councilor Roscoe, if you had received any of this information when you talked to the community members out there in that area that were concerned about the fact that there was not a school being built out there because they had bought their homes with the premises that a school was coming. So, so staff who lives, we have some employees that live out there, some in the Business Services Department, who came in and they said, June, what's going on? Can you tell me about this? And I said, sure, I can. What happens, as Rebecca has mentioned, and so has Cheryl, that these have existed, and it's basically only been, excuse me, it's a development agreement with the right to develop. It's not been a signed contract. It takes a lot of work for a school district to be able to purchase land from a developer. It's not just, and we appreciate the fact that you obviously want to be involved. That's a comfort to us because we do want to know, and the developers and the work that they do before it even gets to our desk, we get a notice that says, hey, this is a potential school site. What do you think? Well, there's a lot that we have to do that goes into that. We have state requirements and regulations and all these other things that we have to do before we can even make that decision. So when you talk about a letter of confirmation, to be able to make that commitment, that's a difficult thing for a school district to do, because now you're asking us to commit to something that we're really unsure if it's going to meet all of the state's legal requirements that we have to meet to be able to purchase that property. So there's a you know, and I could probably talk about site acquisition from the state side of things for a longer period of time than you're going to give me this evening. But if you'd like that workshop, I'd be happy to have that with you. So with that said, on this particular site, when I sat with staff this morning, I had told them that the district, prior to my being the director before me, had issued a letter to the planning, or excuse me, to the developer that said specifically that we were not going to be able to use the site. And the reasons being, I believe there were two reasons. One was the elevation of the site, and the other was the fact that there is only one road of entrance. And you can clearly see that. There's one made road. And with the development there, the traffic, as you well know, at Tournament Hills would be horrendous, and we didn't want to recreate that for our school parents. So with that being said, the developers have been gracious enough to start looking at other pieces of property. So the one off of Takowitz we are looking at, and that one we did take a couple of board members up to the site to go look at that just the other day, and it has potential. That's what the nice thing about getting in the forefront of it is, being right there in the beginning of it, not getting a plan with it already laid out, but being able to sit there and look at it way in advance. So we can look at it and say, okay, we know there's a main road, but if we can build roads into the plans that would give us the access, that would allow us the access to be able to get buses and cars and drop-offs and things like that, then perhaps we can use it as a site. Is it big enough? This particular site has a retention basin. It's 50 acres. We don't need 50 acres, but there's a retention basin on it. So what's the net usable acres? There's a gross, there's a net. Let's whittle that down. What are we actually going to get for a school site with the roads and everything else that we need? So there's this whole process that we can do up front to get to what we need to do, plus the EIRs and all the things and the reporting that has to be done before we can even make that decision. So with that, let's see if I covered everything. Is there anything else you want to ask?
Councilmember Roscoe, did you have a question?
Yeah, got comments too.
Of course. Comments, questions, go right ahead.
That would go towards my I'm all aware of what the plan was, and I was a part of taking a look at that when we were going over the master plan with the school district. I was a part of that. And I knew from that moment we weren't going to be able to use that. My thing at that time was, and that's why I was really concerned, is, okay, if we can't use that, where are we going to look at? And I know at that time, that particular developer was going through some financial issues, and we don't know if they
Economy.
we don't know if they were going to be there, so it was up in the air. So I know it takes that long of a period to do so. What I just, maybe this is an opportunity for me to express myself now, is for what I don't want to see happen is not being able to build anything in that area and then moving the school even further down.
I can address that for you. The school district understands that development originally was planned for 3,300 homes. As part of the facilities planning department, my job and my staff, our staff, what we need to do is to understand what the growth is out in the west side of the district, right? That's within our boundaries, and we have the Calamasa area. So we're looking and working with the developers, Argent being the biggest one over on that side of town, and looking at the 5-year plan. What is the potential of the students that are going to be generated from that area? So we are looking, we know that there is a need, a huge need, for the next elementary school to be coming in that area. That is a priority for us. As you know, we have one on the east side and we have one on the west side. That needs to happen here.
And my question is, now going into knowing, the numbers, Herman Hills is near capacity,
Right.
if not maxed out. I mean, I remember they had to kick out the county folks that were there because we just need the classrooms in there.
We're actually putting more classrooms on to accommodate for some growth this next year.
So what I don't want to see happen is busing students out of Terman Hills. My daughter goes there, and 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road, I don't see it solving the problem. And as we're building 53 homes, we're looking at about maybe, families, you multiply that,
0.7
Looking at
at the state's level.
map, though.
Yeah, we're adding homes here. We're just putting more into that capacity, that school side. And so, I guess where I'm saying is, what is the school? I don't think we can wait 5, 10 years down the road.
We're not.
What are we doing to accommodate school site within the next?
Can we get back to
Come on over to the board meetings, and I'll be happy to roll out the plan for you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to point something out. So you have a proposed tentative map, and then you have conditions of approval to that tentative map that's before you. And if you look at the conditions of approval that's in your packet, and you turn to page 3 of the conditions of approval, the map would have been circulated to affected agencies such as the Water District. It would have been sent out to the Fire Department, and then they have an opportunity to submit conditions of approval for consideration. So if you go to page 3 of the conditions of approval, I'll take the Fire Department by way of example, section 2.3 on page 3 of the conditions of approval. If you then go to the back of your packet, you have the conditions of approval that were submitted by the Fire Department. And they require things like, they reviewed the map, and they require things like a 13D fire sprinkler system, underground fire lines, etc. So it would have also been circulated to the school district, and section 2.7 on page 3 of the conditions of approval provides that the subdivider shall comply with the requirements as set forth by the Beaumont Unified School District. What the requirements are for the school district are up to the school district to determine and submit, not the council.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Ms. June? Ms. Lindsay? No?
Nope.
Thank you very much. We have a public comment?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open up public comment at, we'll call it 9 o'clock.
Ron Roy?
Well, you forgot the residents of Fairway Canyon. Are you feeling cozy enough? You forgot all the people they count. They're not involved in this process at all. This is totally misleading. This should be stopped. We should get everything in writing. I don't believe a word I hear. No verbal comments got to be in writing. And this time I'm not speaking by myself. You're speaking to Fairway Canyon. And there will be consequences if you don't listen to what the Fairway Canyon residents want. An informed and educated public is essential to a successful democracy. In Fairway Canyon, we've had only a few days to familiarize ourselves with an attempt by BUSD to convert a promised 14-acre school site located next to Palmer Park to a high-density housing tract of 53 homes without the consent or support of the residents who will be directly affected by this decision. Yet in this very short time, with our tight learning curve, we've reached an overwhelming consensus against this project. As residents in a Melrose-funded development, our bond payments and our tax dollars went to fund promised public facilities, such as schools. We have residents who said, I came here because I saw the school sign. There was a sign up there that says school site for 7 years. I've got 3 or 4 of my neighbors who said, we were expecting a school site. That's why we moved there. Fire stations, parks, and libraries to be located in Fairway Canyon. Unfortunately, except for 2 postage stamp-sized parks and an overrun, undersized elementary school in a nearby development, Fairway Canyon has been left sorely lacking in receiving these promised facilities. Now, Beaumont Unified School District wants to forfeit its responsibility to consider the wishes of Fairway Canyon residents as to how this site and others in the area will be developed. And it's also ethically questionable why BUSD is entering into a developer contract with a private developer without the burdens of taxes or encumbrances, which is a big trend in large housing developers now, using public agency money. Now, we need clarification on who owns it now. That's what we've been here talking about in our neighborhood. Who's really benefiting here? Certainly not Fairway Canyon residents. Aside from the fact that Fairway Canyon residents are not given ample time to have their wishes addressed, the project is a bad idea for many reasons. For example, Palmer Avenue was never designed to support the type of traffic that these homes would generate. If you use Palmer Avenue now for walking yourself, your dog, your kids, riding your bike, skateboarding, etc., imagine what it will be like with cars spilling out of this housing tract 24/7. Imagine trying to get into and out of Palmer Park safely. Streetwise, Palmer Avenue is already built out. There's no room for an intersection or additional traffic lanes to support the increased traffic without removing our bike lanes and sidewalks, bringing the paved roadway right up to the backyards of many homes. And it could easily take 20 minutes longer for residents on the western end to reach I-10 via Palmer Avenue. Other objections include further exacerbating our water rationing, impossible emergency access due to the site's 10-foot above grade elevation, lack of storm drains in the area, causing additional flooding and runoff, light pollution, overstretching our sewer, water, and other utilities, unanticipated HOA obligations, and clubhouse crowding that will increase our HOA fees. And believe me, I am just scratching the surface. There are many, many more concerns that I've been talking with my neighbors about. I can't begin to tell you what they are. They're very smart. They have a lot of input they want to bring into that site. And I don't have time to do that. They deserve way more consideration. This is not a district-wide election. This is not a district-wide council, but don't push us to that. Don't push us to go district-wide. This is a rare opportunity to finally fill the facility gap in Fairway Canyon and involve its residents in every step of the planning and approval. The residents of Fairway Canyon, not this cozy group here that, you know, these little 20 people that never talk to the residents. And we have been promised schools, parks, fire stations. These are libraries all suggested for the Palmer Avenue site. Why are they here? It's a school site that they can transfer it over and make it a library or something else.
Thank you for your comment.
Your Honor, I just wanted to clarify that we've opened the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
No other speakers.
We have no other speakers for the public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you went to you need to go back up. Okay. I'd like to. Okay. June Lindsay.
There was one thing that I didn't expand on, and that was...
Reset the clock.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
The employees today, one of the things that they had said was the petitions that was out there, that in the petition email that was sent out to everybody, that the district owned the site. The district does not own the site. That never did own the site.
It's owned for school.
It does not, it was not zoned for school. It was zoned.
Ma'am, you should
for-
direct your comments
It was
to the mayor.
zoned for, always zoned for residential. But at any rate, that was the one thing that I wanted to say, that in that publication that went out to whoever the petitioners are, and I believe the entity was change.org. I'm not familiar with them, but it specifically says that the Beaumont Unified School District, who owns the land, intends to convert this land into 53 homes, which is on the agenda at the City Council meeting this Tuesday. We do not own it, and I do want to specifically make that very clear. The district does not own that site.
Can I
And that's it.
Sure. Should we public hearing?
So are you going to close the public hearing now?
Have to close.
If there's no further comments?
Do we have any further comments from anybody on this?
That's it.
Okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 9:05.
Mayor Lahar, I'd like to make one last comment.
Ms. Knight
Okay.
first.
Actually, this is from Miss Lindsay. Looking at this site, there's no way that school is going to go there, is it? Is there? No way, no how? No. Not happening. No. Okay, so thank you. And then, so Mr. Pinkney, so our landowner has the right to develop their property with their development agreement. One more time.
Well, they have a development agreement. Now, I haven't gone through that development agreement in detail, to be candid with you. But whatever we've agreed to, we're bound to comply with.
We're bound by that, legally.
They've gone through the process of submitting a tentative map application. Then it would have been circulated through city staff. City staff would have identified the conditions of approval, sent it out to other agencies to identify what conditions they were imposing, and that process has been completed. My understanding, it's gone to the Planning Commission, and it was approved there.
Correct. I can also add that it was noticed to everyone within 300 feet per the normal process.
In your packet, there's a proof of publication right before item 4E for the public hearing. I'm just looking for the date on that. That's pretty small print. Yeah. So I'm having a hard time reading it because it's kind of small print. But there was my understanding is that this meeting was noticed. That notice was given that we were having a public hearing. You've gotten your comment, and now it's your decision on what you're going to do with the tentative map application.
It was published November 27th.
Yeah.
For both the Planning Commission and the City Council meeting.
Okay.
It's been continued here.
I'm sorry.
Continued.
Right, it was continued from the original date to this date.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem White?
I understand we're following all the rules and doing the publications and notifications and plenty of time. The development agreement may bind us in one way or another. We're not bound to approve this tonight, is that correct?
If there are concerns or questions the council has, they can identify what they are, and we can go back, and staff can go back and look at them and bring it back to you, continue the public hearing.
Okay, I have not, in my experience here in Beaumont, been real happy with the responses that I've gotten from school district on issues, and Ms. Lindsay offered to do a workshop. I would like to continue this item long enough to give the district and the developer an opportunity to sit down with the residents in Tournament Hills and alleviate with them all their concerns. You offered to give us a workshop. I think they're experiencing Brookside and experiencing what the people in Tournament Hills are going through, and Anna Haas. There's a history of not taking into account the growth that's happening in Beaumont and developing school sites that meet the growth and deal with the issues that are coming up. And I think if we could easily hold this off for another couple weeks, the first meeting in March. Just to rush us through, because we followed all the issues, and I know you're going to tell me we're not rushing it through. But you've already got, I mean, you've got an opportunity to speak to the people in Fairway Canyon, and I think you have a duty to hold that meeting with them. And I know that if you had reached out to them and told them that you were going to have a kind of workshop like this back in November or at any time, that you would have gotten a good response and people would have shown up. And the fact that you didn't do it until now, I'm sorry, but I think I would like to see.
Is that a motion?
You go to the community. Yeah, my motion would be to table this, continue this, and give the school district and developer time to meet with the residents of Fairway Canyon and address some of their issues.
Is that sufficient?
I need to clarify that as a public hearing, we do have to continue it to a specified date. Otherwise, re-notification and advertisement would be a cost that the city would bear.
Okay, so what is the...
March 1st or March 15th?
March 15th.
I'll second.
So I will motion we continue this to March 15th to give
I'll
the
second
district
that
and the
motion.
developer an opportunity to meet with the residents of Fairway Canyon.
Okay, so you have a motion, you have a second to table it to a specific date. That ends all debate. There's no further debate. We have a motion to table, and it's a simple majority to pass. Motion.
But does that, hold on, does that date work for?
No, it does not work for me.
We can push.
Together, but that one does not work for me.
How about the first one in April then?
Can I say something?
I think, I'm not the mayor.
Your public hearing's closed. So.
Yeah. So, can we...
Our board meetings almost coincide, so I have to be very careful because I present at our board meetings, which is where we discuss school district stuff.
Can we go with April? First meeting in April?
What I'd like to do is have a special study session at my board meeting, which is where I like my board to inform them as well,
That's all I'm asking for.
not here.
No, I don't think it needs to be here. I think it needs to be...
What I'd like to do is propose a date and send out a notice.
The speaker should come up to the podium since it's being recorded.
Get it on the record.
Okay, June Lindsay, Beaumont Unified School District. If you're asking me to hold a workshop, then I would like to do it at the Beaumont Unified School District in a special study session with my board, and then invite your community.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
to come there.
I didn't mean to
Yes.
misrepresent at all. No, I believe it is.
What you said made no sense to me, so I'm asking for
Okay, so
clarification
what I-
on having it at my district.
Okay.
During a special board study session with my board.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
What I said was that I wanted you to meet with the community. I
And we
didn't.
can
I didn't
invite
say
the
how
community.
or when. And
I'm happy
I think
to
it's
do
a.
that. We can absolutely invite the community at any study. They're always invited. That's an open invitation to them. We try to post it on all of our social media, any opportunity we have. But I will hold a special one just on site selection so that it's very clear.
Great. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
But with that, we will not be able, there's no way for us to go ahead and continue this agenda item until we're sure that that meeting has
You
been...
can pick a date.
Okay.
You can pick a date
Let's
tonight.
pick the first meeting in April then. That
If we
should be
have
plenty of time.
For clarification, Mayor Pro Tem White, you're going to amend your motion?
Hold on a second.
Well, I don't know. I'm getting head shaking. You can't put something together in 40 days?
No, what I'm asking you, I have to talk to my board.
I understand.
Okay.
If this
I'm
is
sure.
important to your board, you'll get something done in time for us to be able to reconsider this in the first meeting
It's
in April.
important to the community.
How about we do April 12th?
Mr. Mayor, so you pick a date in April, and then you come back in April, and if the school board hasn't had a chance to
Continue
meet,
it.
We just continue it.
Let's
Okay.
do April 12th.
Go ahead.
So,
But if you're gonna
first
take-
meeting in April is when?
12th? Let's do April 12th.
That doesn't...
That gives,
Okay, you have a motion.
that's Tuesday.
You have a motion. It's being amended.
April 12th is a board.
Sorry, 19th.
Sure.
April 5th or April 19th?
19th. I'm good with the 19th.
I would like to hear from Cheryl regarding
Are you
timing.
withdrawing your motion?
I will withdraw my motion until I hear what her issues are as far as the timing only, as far as what day.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem White.
Motion and the second are withdrawn.
Yes.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I am really
excited to work with the community, let them know, be part of planning the school district. The school, we can be part of planning, working with the school district and doing that, but it's not going to change the site. It's not going to change this tentative map. So taking this and continuing it until April isn't going to change this, because in April, it doesn't matter how many meetings that we have with the community between now and whenever.
This is not going to be a school site. They don't want it as a school site. So I would like to ask you if you would please reconsider approving this. And we do have a condition that says we shall work with the school district. We will take the extra condition that Councilman Condon said, that we shall work to provide a site. We're more than happy to do that and include the community. And in our HOA meetings, we've been discussing this. This has not been a secret. We have been discussing this in our HOA meetings. We happen to have an HOA out there that only has, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 attend, because 99% of the people in the community are so happy they don't come to the meeting. But they certainly could, because we discussed this. Everybody knows, they've known about the park, they've known about this site coming up. But I would like to ask for you not to continue this, because this is not going to change between now and April. But we certainly will work with the school district, pull together a community meeting.
Okay. Thank you for your comment.
May I make a suggestion? Myself, Kelsman White, and a motion, and let's see where it goes. I wouldn't mind approving this and putting the language, and the contingency there, saying that they shall meet by April 19th, and have that meeting by April 19th, if we can put that in the language.
But now the district has to make that decision.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's leverage that we can. It's a little leverage that we can put in there as a council. So.
But I mean,
Laura, may I make a comment?
Okay,
I believe that the public.
Hang on.
Okay.
Please.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure that we don't mix apples and oranges. We're talking about the approval of a tentative map, not the approval of another school site. We do want the developer to work with the school district, which they seem willing to do, but I think we're mixing two different items.
No, it was, I'm sorry, make a correction. We're not trying to approve a school site. We're allowing the community ample time and opportunity to speak about the changes that are occurring, not just notifying the community in a way that they're being heard and being communicated.
Okay.
That's all. I don't think about any school site. We're not.
Mayor,
We've got a HOA meeting. We've had this meeting with no attendees. This is from Fairway Canyon.
And the Planning Commission.
And Planning Commission meeting. So, and I'm not, well.
Can I make a motion when you're done?
Councilmember Knight?
Actually, this is a map, and I would like to make with the change of shall in the part of the agreement, as Dr. Condon asked, I move to approve the tentative track map number 36783 with the attached conditions of approval as presented, with the language of shall in there.
So with the
now, also, this was pre-approved with how many homes prior to this? There were how many homes? This has been approved prior to this.
It is under the total number of units.
Yes.
But what I was going to ask for clarification is, it sounded like you wanted to add condition 6.10, the landowner shall work with and make property available for the school district within PA 25, is what I heard. So I want to make sure that that is the condition you are asking to add.
You know what, instead of,
I'm sorry, you're out of order.
Just say A site, because they may want something different.
Excuse me. Thank you.
I would amend it to a site. We can't tie them down to something that's
within
tentative, but we do know that they'll work. So that is my motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a comment before there's a second.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem White?
I am willing to right now go on record and say, I'll approve this after you've had a meeting with the community. That's all I'm asking. We have all seen what the school district has done with the schools that we have now. And they're a nightmare. You drive around Tournament Hills, you drive around Brookside, you drive around Anna Hoss. All I'm saying is that, yes, it is true, the map's not going to change, and it is true that we're bound to let you develop there, but we are not bound to move this tonight. And we do have some leverage right now because you do need this approved. And you've agreed to do a workshop for the community. I'm okay with putting in April 5th and adjusting that if you're not able to meet that requirement. But I know there's a motion, and I'll wait to see if there's a second before I continue. I just wanted to have that discussion that I'll be happy to, once I know that the community has properly been addressed, in my opinion, given the history of the school district, that's where I'm standing on this one.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. I'll second.
I'd ask for clarification of the motion, because I don't think I understand the motion.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's my obligation to make sure that the motion is clear.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it?
I think I have it.
Okay.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Knight to approve tentative track map number 36783 with the attached conditions of approval as presented with the language of shall in condition 6.10. Is that correct? With the second by Laura.
There is not currently a 6.10, so it would be with the added condition 6.10, the landowners shall work with and make property available for the school district within Fairway Canyon.
That language isn't quite correct. It shall, because the school district might not want the property, right? Right. Is that correct?
So shall work with the school district.
But just shall work with the school district.
Okay, to clarify.
Yeah, that's fine.
Approved tentative track map number 36783 with the attached conditions of approval as presented with the language of shall work with as an added condition being 6.10 by Councilmember Knight and seconded by Mayor Lara.
Okay.
Roll call. Mayor Lara.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
No.
Councilmember Condon.
No.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Councilmember Orozco.
No.
Motion fails.
I'd like to move that we table this item till April 5th to give...
19th.
April 19th?
Yeah.
Okay. To April 19th to give the school district and time to provide a workshop to the community of Fairway Canyon.
I'll second that motion.
So you need to take a vote without any further discussion.
Correct.
Because the motion table.
And I second it, yep.
Let me clarify. So we have a new motion to continue this item of approving tentative track map number 36783 until meeting of April 19th to give school district time to hold a board meeting. And that was by Mayor Pro Tem White and seconded by Councilmember Roscoe. All right, roll call. Mayor Lara?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Councilmember Condon?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
No.
Councilmember Roscoe?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Passes, yes.
Good. You good?
I'm good.
Okay. That brings us to item 4E, resolutions for employer-paid member contributions. Do you have a staff report?
Yes. Carrie will give the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 3 resolutions before you, and they are in reference to California Public Employee Retirement system, and they require a resolution be passed by City Council when there is a change to the employer-made member contributions, and as a result of recent concessions that we've been you have 3 resolutions in front of you, and I do have to apologize. I do have amendments to Resolution -9 and -10 because safety employees have a 9% PERS rate and non-safety have an 8%. And in my hastening to change all of our different appropriate bargaining units, I didn't change the percent that each employee is paying. Across the board concessions were the employees all agreed to pay 3% of their PERS. So if I'm paying 3% of my PERS, that means the city is paying the remaining 5% of my 8%. If I was a sworn officer and I agreed to pay my 3%, then that means that the city agrees to pay my remaining 6%. So I apologize for that, but I do need to pass out 2 changes to the resolutions. I redlined them so you can review them.
I was going to take it.
What?
Is this the same?
You have 2 of them.
Oh, there's 2.
There's 2.
Did she get the first one?
I got the first. You weren't going to let you. When you're done, you should have 8, 9, and 10. We're going to play paper here. We're going to wake you up. 9.
I got 9.
I feel like we're in a kindergarten class where they tell you stand up, touch your toes. They do things to like get your blood going again.
There's 9 and 10, right?
Yeah.
There's 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
Do you need
So you still have, you have a total of 3. You have 3.
Just 9 and 10.
I don't have 8.
I don't have 8.
I don't think there were changes made to 8.
No changes made to 8.
9 and 10.
Just 9 and 10, so my apologies. I told somebody I feel like I'm a kindergarten teacher. Make everybody stand up, touch your toes, and get the blood going again, and wake everybody up. So my apologies. I had that 9% in my head, and I just kind of did it for everybody. So you have the 3 resolutions. The first is for the safety employees, as I explained. So their PERS rate is 9%. So this is the employee paying 6% and the employer picking up the remaining 6 for this first 12-month period. I'll be coming back to you again next year and the year after with each of the incremental changes as we've negotiated through concessions. And then 8 and 9 are for the non-safety employee groups, and their PERS rate is 8%. So with the employee picking up 3, the remainder is 5. So I apologize again for the error and the chaos. PERS has asked us to do this in conjunction with our MOUs, and again, like I said, I'll be back next year with another 3, and we'll go from there. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from council regarding this? No? I think we're good. Do we have any public comment, Ms. Nicole?
No public comment.
Okay, seeing that we have no public comment, I'll go ahead and open it up. Open and close public comment at 9:26.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion if there is no discussion.
There's a motion.
No discussion, go ahead.
I move that we rescind resolution number 2009-17, and we approve resolutions 2016-8, 2016-9, and 2016-10.
I'll second that.
With those changes?
With those changes.
I'm sorry, with the changes presented to us.
And I'll second that with those changes.
So we have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem White to rescind Resolution 2009-17 and approve 2016-8, 2016-9, and 2016-10 with the changes that were given tonight. And I have a second by Orozco, Councilmember Orozco. Roll call. Mayor Lara.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem White.
Yes.
Councilmember Condon.
Yes.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
And Councilmember Orozco.
Aye.
Approved by unanimous.
Okay, that brings us to item 4F, Economic Development Committee.
Mayor and council, Kyle will give the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the City Council meeting on January 25th of this year, Council directed staff to bring back an item to discuss the formation of an Economic Development Committee. I looked through many different cities' economic development committees. They have different names for them. They have different duties and goals. I probably looked at 10 to 15 of these different communities. Some communities smaller than ours. Some communities like San Diego with a tremendous amount of people and tremendous amount of businesses and economic development projects. So what I did was I put together a simple mission statement, and feel free to read through that. I'm sure you already read through it. Feel free to comment on that if you like it, or if you'd like to alter that in any way, shape, or form. Also included what I would call a menu of major responsibilities. And that's why I put may include. By all means, unless you want to, do I think the Economic Development Committee should be responsible for performing all of these responsibilities, because that's a fairly vast list. But I provided the menu of different options on what I saw to be meaningful responsibilities and tasks and duties that these types of committees perform throughout the communities I looked at. It ranges from economic review, so review of the economy, local, statewide, and nationwide. Development reviews, if you would like the committee to get into that stuff. Creating marketing campaigns, as well as like a sense of community campaign, things like that that help market the community to the different business sectors. And one thing I would strongly urge you to do is include at least some of the items under the building relationships portion of the committee, because I find in the role of economic development, you can never go at it alone. You have to build relationships with a multitude of different special agencies, special districts, business stakeholders, and members of the community to have a viable economic development program. And with that, staff recommends that council direct staff on the potential committee makeup, so the composition of the committee itself, setting the appropriate parameters, goals, and organizational structure of the Economic Development Committee, and we'll bring back that in the framework that you choose at a future meeting for your approval or consideration. And I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Mayor?
One second. I just was, maybe with council's consensus, maybe we have something that's a little less formal, like an ad hoc committee, economic ad hoc committee, with the appointment of 2 council members on that to work with city staff.
I was going to want to make some suggestions as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the idea we can add, put 2 council members on there. This committee has a lot of potential. I think we barely kind of scraped just the portion of how much potential and what we need to look at it. And Kyle and I have been talking about this back and forth, and Kyle had put some great stuff on here about building relationships, and the makeup of this committee can be very crucial on this. I like to be one of the council members that sits on this committee here, but you know, my idea is maybe allowing, before anything, allowing 2 council members to sit on there to work with staff to kind of come back with a proposal and give something that with the direction of what council wants, and those 2 council members work with staff and come up with a more detailed plan or a detailed proposal and bring it back to council.
As an ad hoc committee, or just...
Well, whatever the discussion is, whatever the discussion is here.
Mr. Painting, we can do this as a ad hoc committee.
You could do it as an ad hoc committee if it's just a temporary committee. Okay. If you had a minority of the council that was serving on an ad hoc committee for a temporary period of time, then it would not be a Brown Act body. But if you have a minority of the council plus staff or members of the community, then it becomes a Brown Act body, and you would have to notice the meetings, which you may want to do. That's that's up to you as a council.
I'd like to see the two council members address this first, and then take it from there. I like the idea of a two-person ad hoc.
Okay. Councilmember Knight?
I like the ad hoc idea and having the council look at it. I would like to see Dr. Condon on there because she has some expertise in this background, I do believe.
I second that.
Okay. I'd also like to have Councilmember Roscoe on there as well. He's done a lot of work on some of these items like this, so.
Appreciate that.
Do we have any public comments?
No public comment.
Okay, no public comment. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and open and close public comment at 9:34. So, if I understand correctly, council is supportive of having an ad hoc committee, something less formal, for the economic development, with Councilmember Roscoe and Councilmember Condon attending to work with city staff. Do I have that right?
Did you have some comment on that too, Dr. Condon?
No, I'm very agreeable to what's been put forward.
Mayor, one question.
Yes, sir.
Is the goal or the objective of the ad hoc committee to work with staff to present to council the mission statement and the goals and objectives and the duties for the Economic Development Committee? Or is it to operate for another reason? Like to actually operate in capacity of the Economic Development Committee?
Well, my thought was, and we'll see what council says, but my thought was is to actually, as an ad hoc, come up with the goals and objectives. We'll set a time frame, and then at that point, maybe in 8 or 10 months, we'll have a potentially new city manager that may want to change the direction or create a more permanent or more formal committee, if you will. That was my thought, but I don't know what other council members.
My thought would be to give Mr. Orozco and Ms. Condon the flexibility to bring back whatever they feel is necessary, take it from there.
Okay.
You know, that's what I was hoping for.
Okay.
It's been my understanding, Kyle, that you have a good deal of experience in economic development, and your assistance will be greatly valued. I've made just had some tentative discussions with some of the higher education leaders, and they shared a great deal of excitement about the fact that we are looking in this direction. And I think it sends a message to our community that we're not only setting things right in the city, but we are looking towards a prosperous future. And we're talking about ways in which we can attract clean, smart jobs to our city so that we don't end up as a one business kind of town. And I appreciate the openness of the mission or the task that you suggested because the economic development committees that I have seen that fail are those that don't have enough flexibility built into what it is they need to do, also in relation to the membership of the committee, because depending on the task or what you're going after or who you're trying to attract, you may need to change the membership of that committee. So I think we would build that into our plan, that there's flexibility for any particular project that we're working on. That's basically my comment on the issue, but I think we're going in the right direction.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Having us Kyle is a huge asset. So, sitting down with him so we can pick his brain and all work together with a designee or the acting city manager and coming up with a nice proposal. I think it's going to be a benefit for the entire community. So.
But is that a problem?
Yeah, I was going to ask Ms. Gibbs.
No,
is that
my understanding is what you're doing is creating an advisory temporary ad hoc committee composed solely of a minority of the council, Councilmember Orozco and Councilmember Condon, and that's it.
Right.
So that's not a Brown Act body.
Okay. Will that work with Kyle's job duties?
Staff will be available to answer any questions of the committee.
Fantastic.
So are you going to take a vote on creating that advisory committee?
We need a motion.
Well, it's an action item. You can, if you want, or it's a lot clearer for the record if you do it by.
I move that we establish a two-person ad hoc committee with 2 council members.
I second that.
For the economic development.
I'm sorry, for the economic development committee.
Did I cut you off? I thought
No,
you were done.
I wasn't.
So we have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry. And the second was by Knight.
Councilmember Knight.
So I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem White to establish a
Temporary advisory committee.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, temporary advisory committee to work with staff on economic development. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll go ahead and do the roll call. Councilmember Orozco?
Aye.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Councilmember Condon?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
That brings us to item 4G, city attorney invoices.
This affects my law firm, so I'm recusing myself on this item.
Staff report? No? No. Okay. Do we have public comment?
No.
Okay, I'll open and close public comment at 9:39.
This is the monthly invoices from the city attorney's office. The amount for period ending January 31st is $74,916.78.
I'll make the motion.
Sure. Councilmember Roscoe?
I'll make the motion with a comment. We need to get these in line. But I'll make the motion to approve the invoices of in the amount of $74,916.78. So,
I have a quick question for city manager, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Looking through the invoices, there's an amount for retainer and over retainer. Do you know, can you explain that?
The retainer is the flat, everyday operational items, not tied to a different case.
That's the 7688. But that's for him to attend meetings, to
Correct.
provide
Council meetings,
guidance.
It's a general day-to-day operation.
Okay, so then the over retainer is the work that he or his firm has done that's over that amount, correct? Perfect. Okay.
Any other comments from council?
Me.
Councilmember Knight?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Urtiaga, I think that, our city attorney and the invoices, I think there's some confusion out there why we're spending more, and until we get through the issues that we're dealing with, we've got a lot of issues that are unusual, that aren't the norm of everyday operations in a city. That's my understanding. And once we finally get a lot of these problems resolved, these invoices and expenses will come down. Is that correct?
And as it was stated before, negotiations played a part in all of this. Some of the litigation cases have been closed, but we do have still other cases that are open, active, and pending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council?
Comments?
No, so I believe we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve invoices in the amount of $74,916.78 by Councilmember Orozco and second by Mayor Pro Tem White. I'll do roll call. Mayor Lara?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Councilmember Condon?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
And Councilmember Orozco?
Aye.
Approved by a unanimous vote.
You guys grab John. Okay, we're at the city manager report. Just give me 1 minute. Just a couple items that we're working on. The Public Works Director interviews have been completed, and I interviewed 3 finalists, and I've I made a decision on one. That person has not been contacted yet, but I will start the process of negotiating the salary with that person, and we will notify the other candidates. We had 7 applicants, and the committee, a panel, narrowed it down to the top 3, and I want to thank the committee members for doing that. The top 3, I have to tell you, are very, very close, and I took the weekend to make the decision because it was such an important decision. The Public Works Director is going to be key to our capital improvement budget and assisting with the wastewater treatment plant. That brings me to the next item, the wastewater treatment plant. I have hired an interim engineer. His name is Brian Knoll, and he comes highly recommended, and he's already toured the facility and given me some recommendations. We will be meeting formally this week to talk about where to go from here, and in response to Mayor Pro Tem White's questions about the regional water project that we've been working on, having that interim engineer is going to help facilitate the city's position on where we go in the future with regional water. We're tentatively looking at the last Monday in March as a regional water workshop, just with council and staff. It would not be with the other boards unless council so directs, but that would be the opportunity for council to really get down into the dirt about owning a utility and having an enterprise fund and the status of the plant, the financial implications of moving forward one way or the other. And so it would be a comprehensive workshop just focused on the wastewater treatment.
What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Brian Knoll.
He's the interim wastewater person, though, right?
Correct.
And where's Knowles?
Knoll, K-N-O-L-L.
Okay. And is he from a firm?
Thank you.
Yes.
Which firm?
Web Engineering.
Got it, thanks.
Mayor, I'd like to ask a question or make a comment.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
So we will have a Public Works Director that's an employee of the city.
Yes.
Who is only beholden to us.
Yes.
Okay, that is great news, and I think a workshop at the end of March would be outstanding, and I agree with your approach that it be just our group at this point, but at least we can show the other boards that we are at least making progress and moving in a direction. Okay.
Yeah, he has his work cut out for him, but he's up to the task.
Great.
So. And then I'm just going to quickly go through the items that we're working on for the next agenda. Building and Safety Plan Check RFP selection, PD vehicle lease, an update on the Office of Emergency Services, specifically what we're doing with El Nino prep, IE Cares vehicle for hire application for non-emergency transportation services, an invoice from the Riverside County Flood Control for cost-sharing consultant services in the amount of $15,323, and then another Water Master invoice that we've been presented with. And then finally, I'd like to run through a tentative budget timeline. This is really in draft form. It hasn't been finalized yet, but this will give you an idea of what we're looking at. So we had our mid-year budget report tonight. We will, we finalized that tonight. Moving forward, we're looking at February and March to do preliminary analysis of all of the funds, including the general, special enterprise, and redevelopment funds. The week of March 11th, we'll be meeting with department heads to review their budgets. The week of March 25th, I will meet with finance to review those budgets from the department heads. The week of April 15th, we will go over in detail the components of the proposed general fund budget. The week of April 22nd, we'll go over in detail the proposed enterprise fund budgets. The week of April 29th, we will look at the proposed special revenue funds and redevelopment funds. I will look at them with the finance director. The week of May 6th, we will finalize all city and agency budgets at the staff level with me and the finance director, the accounting manager. And then the week of May 13th, we will be bringing a preview of the budget to City Council. And just as a reminder, the city charter states and I quote, "City manager must submit a copy of the proposed budget to City Council 35 days prior to beginning of fiscal year," so that is about that time. May 24th, we'll have our public hearing on approving the budget. That needs to be not less than 10 days after the budget documents are available. So the publication date will be no later than June 4th, and a copy will be readily available to the public at the counter and on our website. And then, crossing our fingers, June 7th will be the final public hearing for approval of all of the resolutions adopting all of the agency budgets for fiscal year 2017.
Wow.
Okay. And I will put a copy of this in the packet for March 1st, but I wanted to just give you kind of a rundown.
Thank you. There's a lot of dates.
There isn't going to be a test. I didn't expect you to memorize the dates. I just wanted to start you thinking about budget.
No, I like the fact that including a calendar in our council meetings. I know the school board, what I liked was the fact that every Friday or every other, we got like a calendar of events that's going to happen, and it just kind of kept, because I know you will make some changes along the way that just keeps us, my calendar in sync with your calendar.
Right.
That's easier. Yeah. Question? May I ask a question?
Councilmember Roscoe?
In regards to the city manager report. I don't know if I missed it, but did you mention about the RFP with the bond attorney, when that was going to come to council?
It's actually sitting all packaged up in my office to talk to John about. We haven't opened the bids yet.
Okay.
It closed, we just haven't moved forward with it yet.
Is there a timeline on that?
I don't know.
Okay.
It depends on what my discussion is with the attorney.
It's an RFP. It's not a bid, so you have flexibility on that, and there's no hard and fast deadline by which you have to do it.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, there's no
Any
timeline.
other questions from
so
council?
That's fine.
I do.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
I don't know if she's done yet. Are you done with community?
I just wanted to mention that, as I do every time, the Outlook is in there with important dates, and I encourage council and the community to look at the flyer, because it does change.
I'd like to get some clarification and make a suggestion, and two suggestions. But first, clarification. We have a couple workshops still scheduled this month, correct?
Correct.
So the 22nd is the...
CFD 101
and the 24th?
is the growth management.
Okay, and the CFD is at the school district?
Correct.
And the growth management will be here?
Growth management is at the school district.
Okay.
6 p.m.
Okay.
That's Wednesday.
Monday is the
Monday and
CFD,
Wednesday.
and Wednesday.
Right. So I didn't remember. I had it in my phone. I thought I had the right dates, but I went on the city's calendar, on the front page. I think it'd be helpful if the workshop dates are there, at least for me to find them, but I think for the rest of the community to find them also.
So both meetings are at the school district?
Yes, due to the size of the crowd that we expect, our facility would not accommodate them, and the school district was gracious enough
good.
to
I like that
let us
recommendation.
use their facilities. It's a much larger room, and I think it'll better accommodate the potential crowd that we're expecting. And just so you know, that newspapers will be running the information this week.
Good. Thank you.
And then the other one is, I know you don't have enough on your plate, so see if I can offer another piece. Mr. Roy brought up earlier the Moreno Valley annexation, and I've looked into that, and it's not as close to LAFCO as he believes it is. But I would like to get some kind of staff report or information on exactly what's involved going there, because I know that if you read what Moreno Valley thinks they're doing, is they're planning on some kind of Temecula winery type area. And I agree with a lot of what Mr. Roy said, that we have a responsibility to what goes into San Mateo Canyon, and I'd like to see how close they're coming to our sphere of influence. And so just, I don't think there's a rush on it, because from my understanding of reading what Moreno Valley's operating with, they're a ways away from really going to LAFCO and getting approval on that.
I did meet with George Spiliotis last week for about an hour and a half to talk about things that were important to Beaumont.
Okay.
And that did not come up, but I will reach out to him again and tell him to keep us on his list.
Okay.
So The information will need to come in the form of a staff report from LAFCO.
Perfect.
So that's where I'll...
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Mayor, Laura, if I could, please. The community outlook looks terrific. I would really like to see the Standing Financial Committee added to it. You mentioned the planning and you mentioned the city council, and I just think that it would be a nice link. It's such a good communication device that you do for the community. I thought it would be good to see if we could add that. And I don't know if you put the Standing Financial Committee on the city calendar or not, actually, but if you would check that, I'd appreciate it very much.
I did. It's there.
It's good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
One down, one to go.
At least tomorrow night's is.
Yeah.
I'll be doing, Nicole had to leave. She's gravely ill.
Okay.
She's been fighting a migraine, so I sent her home.
I know how that feels.
Yeah.
So you'll be doing we don't need to do a city clerk report tonight, or is it what?
There's no city clerk report tonight.
So that brings us to item number 7, city attorney report.
Just by way of update, attached in the packet is the list of pending litigation. And by way of summary on the litigation, when we took over as the new city attorney, the city was involved as a defendant in approximately 11 lawsuits. 3 of those cases are still on appeal. As the remaining 8 lawsuits, we've resolved 6 of those lawsuits. There have been some other cases that have been since filed that we're addressing. In addition to that, there have been numerous claims that have come in, as you're aware of, and those have been resolved for the most part. And then in terms of items that we've been working on for the city in the recent past, item 8I tonight on your consent calendar item is a release document that we prepared and have assisted city staff on. In addition to that, we've, in connection with the initiative process, the growth ordinance initiative process, we've assisted the city clerk with the limited growth initiative process, including preparing, there was an amended initiative that was submitted, and we prepared the title and summary in connection with that. And then also we're assisting city staff and the city in connection with the Brookfield project, representing the city in response to a request for release of performance bonds in the amount of $522,631, which guaranteed the completion of storm drains at the Three Rings Ranch development. We've also reviewed the CopLogic contract. That's, I believe, a consent calendar item tonight. And we are also currently representing the city in response to a Lehman Brothers request for release of 2 performance bonds in the amount of $3,420,000 and $420,000 to secure construction of the Potrero Bridge and access road. In addition, we've been, as I mentioned, dealing with third-party claims as they come in. We've also reviewed and edited a proposed ordinance supporting a public arts program, and we've been assisting when requested to do so. We're not involved with every Public Records Act request, but some of them we are asked to get involved in, and we, in those instances, we typically correspond with the attorney for the requesting party. I'll be speaking with the new Assistant City Clerk to make sure that we're meeting the 10-day. We have 10 days to respond to a Public Records Act request. And then if we need additional time, we can request 14. And so also, our firm is representing the city in connection with the wind down of the former redevelopment agency, and in particular regarding the procedures necessary to apply to the Department of Finance for reinstatement of the master loan agreement between the city and the former RDA as a repayable enforceable obligation under the dissolution law. And you'll recall that came before you as a successor agency not long ago, and then went to the Oversight Board. And so there's going to be ongoing work with that, and then dealing with the Department of Finance. That's by no means a completed process. So we're going to be continuing to assist the city in connection with that. We're going to be providing sexual harassment training for employees in late February. In addition to that, our office drafted a memorandum for the Standing Financial Committee regarding the Brown Act, and then we also have conducted AB 1234 training for both staff, council, and then we did another one for the Standing Financial Committee as well. Our firm also drafted a letter, analyzed a situation where a company had applied for a business license to open up a medical marijuana-related business, which is not permissible under the city code as it's currently written, and so our firm analyzed that issue, and then we drafted a response back to the applicant. Also, Tournament Hills and Sundance, in that matter, Party Homes has requested that the city execute an estoppel certificate stating that the development agreement and pre-annexation agreement that it has with the city are in full force and effect, and we're responding to that request. We also have reviewed a tow service agreement from the police department. And then we also conducted pretty detailed analysis in connection with a question that was raised regarding the city's utility user tax. And we analyzed that very thoroughly. It's an area of law that can change in the future, but we've analyzed it under current law and with the authorities, the best authorities that we have available at this time. We also are assisting and representing the city in connection with code enforcement matters, pitches, motion hearings, overseeing the pending litigation matters, and then also working with staff to prepare for the good growth control workshop that's scheduled for the 24th of this month. And then, of course, advising the city on Brown Act and conflict of interest issues as they arise, and then also representing the city in connection with labor negotiations that have been ongoing and are now drawing to a close, as well as representing the city on day-to-day labor and employment questions that arise. And that's my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pinckney. That brings us to the consent calendar, item 8. Is there any items council wishes to have pulled at this time?
I move that we approve the consent calendars 8A through I.
I second that. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem White, a second by Councilmember Knight to approve the consent calendar 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, 8E, 8F, 8G, 8H, and HI in its entirety.
Easy for you to say.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Orozco?
Aye.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Councilmember Condon?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem White?
Yes.
Mayor Lara?
Aye.
Motion passed by vote.
Well, with that, we'll adjourn the city council, or we're going to adjourn to closed session. Is that correct?
That's correct. We, as I mentioned when we reported out from closed session, there were a number of items that were continued to the end of the open session. The public is entitled to remain until the council comes back from the closed session and reports out if it wishes to do so.
So we can adjourn the regular meeting?
The open session, and now we're going to recess to closed session, and then we will adjourn the council meeting at the end of the report out.
So I'll adjourn the open session at 10:02.